Absolutely not. Captain Blackwood slammed his hand on the desk, making Sarah jump back. All she had asked for was a room with a window, just a tiny window to keep her panic attacks away. But sir, my doctor wrote this note about my claustrophobia, Sarah said, her voice shaking. The cruise she had saved for 3 years was about to become her nightmare. Do I look like I care? The captain laughed, pointing at his 4 gold stripes. This is my ship. Pay for an upgrade or stay in your tiny cabin. Sarah's eyes caught the screen behind him. It showed 5 empty suites. He was lying. 2 rich-looking guests walked up. The captain's face changed instantly to a big smile. Welcome aboard. We've upgraded you to our finest suite. Sarah walked away, tears rolling down her cheeks. The kindergarten teacher's dream vacation was ruined before it even started. No one noticed the military helicopter approaching the ship. No one saw the man in black gear preparing to drop down. And Captain Blackwood had no idea that in exactly 5 minutes, he would meet the one person who could sink his perfect world. The helicopter hovered above the cruise ship, its powerful rotors sending chairs sliding across the top deck. Passengers pointed and gasped, drinks spilling as they grabbed their phones to record. Captain Blackwood burst through the door to the upper deck, his face twisted in anger. What is the meaning of this? He shouted into his radio. No helicopter was scheduled for today. His first officer handed him a paper. Actually, sir, there was. The naval training exercise? You signed the approval last month. The captain's face turned pale as he watched a black rope drop from the helicopter. A figure in dark tactical gear slid down with impressive speed, landing perfectly on the deck. The man removed his helmet, revealing a sharp jawline and confident smile that made several female passengers swoon. Commander Ryan Williams, United States Navy SEALs, he announced, extending his hand to the stunned captain. Permission to come aboard, though I guess I already did. Captain Blackwood shook his hand weakly. I wasn't expecting... The paperwork was filed months ago, Ryan said, his voice friendly but his eyes steel hard. My team will be conducting security drills on your ship for the next 2 weeks. Part of our new maritime protection program. 2 more SEALs descended from the helicopter, carrying equipment boxes. You'll hardly notice us, Ryan continued, except when we need to run emergency scenarios. First one's tomorrow at 800. The captain's smile was tight. Of course, we're happy to assist our military. Ryan was about to respond when he spotted a woman walking across the lower deck, wiping her eyes. He froze. Sarah, he whispered. The captain followed his gaze. You know that passenger? Ryan's expression changed instantly. That's my sister. Excuse me. He moved with lightning speed down the stairs, leaving the captain staring after him in shock. Sarah, Ryan called out. Sarah turned, her sad eyes widening in disbelief. Ryan, how are you? He wrapped her in a bear hug, lifting her off the ground. Surprise, I wanted to tell you I'd be working on your cruise, but it was classified until now. She laughed through her tears. I can't believe you're here. Ryan put her down, his smile fading as he noticed her red eyes. Hey, what's wrong? You've been crying. Sarah wiped her face quickly. It's nothing. Just a small problem with my cabin. Tell me, Ryan said, his voice suddenly serious. Later, Sarah whispered, noticing Captain Blackwood watching them from above. It's your first day. I don't want to cause problems. Ryan followed her gaze up to the captain, who quickly looked away. I have a feeling I'll be getting to know the captain very well, Ryan said. His friendly tone couldn't hide the protective edge in his voice. Back on the upper deck, Captain Blackwood was frantically scrolling through his tablet. Find me everything on Commander Williams, he ordered his assistant. And I mean everything. Already on it, she replied, showing him a screen. He's decorated, multiple tours, special operations in places that are still classified. The captain's face darkened. And his connection to that woman? Sarah Williams, kindergarten teacher from Ohio, his younger sister. The one who wanted a free upgrade, the captain muttered. The assistant looked uncomfortable. Sir, we do have those empty suites in the... I decide who gets what on my ship, he snapped. No exceptions. Meanwhile, Ryan was walking with Sarah along the deck, catching up on the 3 years they'd been apart. But part of his mind was elsewhere. This naval exercise was just his cover story. His real mission was to investigate a security threat rumored to be on this very ship, a mission so sensitive not even the captain knew about it. Ryan glanced at his sister. Something was really bothering her, and he intended to find out what. Or rather, who. "Let's get lunch," he suggested, putting his arm around her shoulders. "And you can tell me exactly what happened before I arrived." From the upper deck, Captain Blackwood watched them, unaware that his small act of cruelty toward Sarah Williams was about to become the biggest mistake of his career. "You still like extra ketchup on everything, I see." Ryan laughed as Sarah drowned her fries in the red sauce. They sat at a corner table in the ship's casual dining area, away from curious eyes. The ocean sparkled through large windows, but Ryan's focus was entirely on his sister. "Some things never change," Sarah smiled, then grew serious. "But you did. Look at you, all commander now. Mom would be so proud." "She'd be more proud of you," Ryan said, reaching for her hand. "Teaching kids every day. That's the real hero work." Sarah's eyes softened. "My students were so excited about this cruise. I promised to take lots of pictures for our class project." She sighed. "Especially Tommy. He has such bad anxiety, just like I did as a kid." "How is that going? The claustrophobia?" Ryan asked carefully. Sarah looked down at her plate. "Not great. That's actually why you were crying earlier," Ryan finished. "Tell me what happened, Sar. All of it." Sarah took a deep breath and explained about her tiny inside cabin, the panic attack that had sent her to the captain, and his cold rejection despite having empty rooms. Ryan's jaw tightened with each word. "He laughed at your doctor's note, then gave upgrades to those rich people right in front of me," Sarah added. Ryan's eyes flashed with a look Sarah hadn't seen since they were kids. 10-year-old Sarah huddled behind the school building, tears streaming down her face as 3 older boys surrounded her. "Give us your lunch money, crybaby," the tallest one demanded. I need it for lunch," Sarah whispered. "What's going on here?" A young Ryan, just 13 but already fearless, stepped around the corner. "Mind your own business," the bully sneered. Ryan stepped between them and his sister. "She is my business. There's 3 of us and 1 of you," another boy laughed. Ryan smiled, but his eyes were serious. "Then it's almost fair." 5 minutes later, the bullies ran off with bloody noses, and Ryan knelt beside Sarah. "I'll always protect you, Sar, always." "Earth to Ryan?" Sarah waved her hand in front of his face. "Where'd you go just now? Remember those bullies in elementary school?" Ryan asked. Sarah grinned. "How could I forget? You got detention for a week. Worth it." Ryan's smile faded. "Some things never change. Like bullies who pick on people they think can't fight back." "Ryan," Sarah warned, recognizing his tone, "don't do anything crazy. It's just a room." "It's not just a room, it's about respect." Ryan put down his napkin. "You know what those kids in your class taught me when I visited?" "What?" "That the little things matter most. Tommy couldn't handle the cafeteria noise, so you created a quiet corner. Maria needed special pictures to understand instructions, so you made them." Ryan's voice grew passionate. "You changed their whole world by just being kind. And this captain couldn't be bothered to show the same kindness." Sarah reached for her phone and showed Ryan pictures of her students. "These kids are counting on me to bring back amazing stories. I promised Tommy I wouldn't be scared in my tiny room." Her voice cracked. "I don't think I can keep that promise." Ryan studied the photos, stopping at one of a small boy with glasses too big for his face. "This Tommy?" Sarah nodded. "He's made so much progress this year. He even raised his hand in class last week." Ryan stood up suddenly. "I need to meet this captain properly." "Ryan, please don't make a scene," Sarah pleaded. "No scenes," he promised with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just a friendly chat between a ship captain and a Navy SEAL." As Ryan walked away, Sarah noticed several crew members watching them. One server caught her eye and gave a tiny nod of approval. She wasn't the only one hoping Captain Blackwood would finally get what was coming to him. Captain Richard Blackwood's private quarters were twice the size of the presidential suite. He adjusted his perfectly pressed uniform in the mirror and practiced his smile, the one that charmed wealthy passengers into booking premium packages. "Perfect," he muttered, straightening his captain's hat. The phone on his desk rang, and his smile instantly disappeared. "Blackwood speaking," he answered. "Richard, it's Margaret from corporate." The voice was sharp, all business. "I'm looking at the customer satisfaction scores from your last 3 cruises." The captain's stomach tightened. "We've had some challenging weather." "Cut the excuses," Margaret interrupted. "Your scores are down 22% since last year. The board is asking questions." Blackwood gripped the phone harder. "Tell the board I've increased premium suite bookings by 30%. "That's the only reason you still have a job," Margaret said coldly. "But people are complaining about the atmosphere on your ship. Staff seems unhappy. Passengers feel unwelcome unless they're big spenders." "I run a tight ship," he defended. "You run an expensive ship, Richard. And if people don't enjoy their experience, they won't come back. Fix it, or we'll find someone who will." The line went dead. Blackwood slammed the phone down, his perfect image cracking as he loosened his collar and dropped heavily into his leather chair. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out an old worn photograph, a skinny boy, in patched clothes standing beside a rusty fishing boat. Himself, at 12 years old, working on his father's failing charter boat. "Never again," he whispered to the photo. "Never going back to nothing." A knock at the door made him quickly hide the picture. "Enter," he called, his captain's voice back in place. His first officer, Jensen, stepped in. "Sir, the Navy SEAL commander is requesting a meeting." "Commander Williams?" The captain's face darkened. "Did he say why?" "Something about the security protocols, sir." Jensen hesitated. "And he asked about our cabin assignment process." Blackwood stood up sharply. "Our cabin assignments are none of his business." "He's waiting in the officer's lounge, sir. Tell him I'm busy with important ship matters." Jensen shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, with respect, he's a decorated Navy SEAL conducting authorized exercises on our vessel. Refusing to meet him might—" "Fine," Blackwood snapped. 10 minutes, not a second more." As Jensen left, the captain's phone buzzed with a text message from the cruise line's owner. "Hearing rumors of passenger complaints. We'll be watching your performance closely this voyage." Blackwood cursed under his breath. 20 years climbing from dishwasher to captain, and it could all disappear because people wanted handouts and special treatment. He stepped into the hallway, immediately switching to his charming captain persona as he passed some first-class passengers. "Enjoying your cruise, Mr. and Mrs. Peterson?" he asked warmly. "Absolutely wonderful, Captain," they gushed. "Excellent. Remember, my door is always open for our special guests." The moment they turned the corner, his smile vanished. He passed a young crew member who was polishing a railing. "You missed a spot," Blackwood snapped, pointing to an already gleaming section. "Sorry, sir," the crew member mumbled, quickly rubbing harder. "And straighten your uniform. This isn't a carnival cruise." In the officer's lounge, Commander Ryan Williams stood looking out at the ocean, hands clasped behind his back in perfect military posture. He turned as the captain entered. "Captain Blackwood," Ryan said with a respectful nod that didn't match the intensity in his eyes. "Commander, I understand you wanted to see me about security protocols?" Blackwood's tone was professional but cold. "Among other things," Ryan replied, "I've noticed some interesting patterns on your ship." "Such as?" "How certain passengers receive special consideration, while others with legitimate needs are denied basic courtesies." The captain's face hardened. "Are you referring to something specific, Commander?" "I believe you know exactly what I'm referring to." Ryan stepped closer. "My sister showed me her doctor's note about her claustrophobia." "Ah," Blackwood forced a laugh. "This is about family favoritism. I'm afraid Navy rank doesn't entitle relatives to free upgrades, Commander." "It's not about free anything," Ryan said calmly. "It's about decency, about not making a person with a medical condition suffer when you have available solutions. I don't tell you how to run your military operations, Commander. Don't tell me how to run my ship. The captain turned to leave. Your crew is afraid of you, Ryan said quietly. Blackwood stopped. Excuse me? In just 4 hours aboard, I've had 7 crew members approach me. They're miserable, bullied, threatened with being fired if they show kindness to passengers without charging for it. That's ridiculous, Blackwood sputtered, though his face flushed. Is it? Ryan pulled out his phone. I've recorded the conversations. Would the cruise line owners be interested in hearing them? The captain's mask slipped for a moment, revealing panic before he regained control. Are you threatening me, Commander? Ryan smiled. Just sharing my security observations, Captain. A ship with an unhappy crew is a security risk. They make mistakes, miss things. Before Blackwood could respond, his radio crackled. Captain to the bridge. Urgent call from corporate. The captain pointed a finger at Ryan. This conversation is over. Stay away from my crew and my passenger assignments. As he stormed out, Ryan called after him. I was serious about those emergency drills tomorrow morning, Captain. 800 sharp. I'd hate for anyone to be unprepared. Alone in the lounge, Ryan pulled out his phone and made a call. This is Williams. I need everything you can find on Captain Richard Blackwood's past. Something's off with this guy, and it's more than just being a jerk. He's hiding something. Ryan walked to the window, watching the waves. He wasn't just here for Sarah anymore. His SEAL instincts were telling him there was something wrong on this ship, something that went deeper than one captain's bad attitude. And Ryan Williams never ignored his instincts. The staff dining area fell silent when Ryan walked in. 20 crew members froze, forks midway to mouths, eyes wide with surprise. Please don't stop eating, Ryan said with a friendly smile. I'm just looking for some real food. That fancy stuff upstairs isn't exactly filling. A young woman with Elena Housekeeping on her name tag scooted over. You can sit here, Commander. Ryan thanked her and sat down with his tray. Slowly, conversations resumed around him, though much quieter than before. They think you might be spying for the captain, Elena whispered. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Does he do that? All the time, she nodded. Sends his assistants to listen to our complaints. Anyone who talks gets the worst shift schedule for months. Ryan took a bite of his sandwich. Good thing I'm not his assistant, then. A tall man in a chef's uniform approached. Is it true you confronted the captain about your sister? The room went quiet again. Ryan looked up calmly. News travels fast. Nothing travels faster than gossip on a cruise ship, the chef said. I'm Marco, head of the night kitchen staff. Nice to meet you, Marco. The chef leaned closer. Your sister isn't the first, you know. Last month there was an old man with a broken leg. Needed a room closer to the elevator. Captain said no, even though we had 10 empty accessible rooms. Others began chiming in. A honeymooning couple got separated because of a booking mistake. Captain wouldn't fix it unless they paid double. Family with a sick child asked to move away from the engine noise. Captain refused. Ryan listened, mentally taking notes. Why doesn't anyone report this to the cruise line? Elena laughed bitterly. We've tried. He has friends in corporate. Complaints mysteriously disappear. Not this time, Ryan promised. Tell me everything. Meanwhile, Sarah sat on a deck chair, trying to read a book but unable to focus. The thought of returning to her tiny cabin made her heart race. Excuse me, dear, is this chair taken? Sarah looked up to see an elderly couple smiling at her. The woman had kind eyes behind stylish glasses, and the man leaned on a wooden cane. Not at all, Sarah smiled, moving her bag. I'm Martha, and this is my husband, Harold, the woman said as they settled in nearby chairs. I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you. We couldn't help noticing you were with that handsome Navy SEAL earlier, Martha said with a twinkle in her eye. Quite dramatic the way he arrived. Sarah laughed. That's my brother Ryan, always making an entrance. Your brother? How wonderful, Martha exclaimed. We have 5 grandchildren in the military. Such brave young people. Harold nodded proudly. I served myself years ago, Korea. They chatted pleasantly until Harold mentioned their room had been downgraded without explanation. We booked a balcony suite, Martha explained. Harold needs fresh air for his lungs, but they moved us to an inside cabin. The captain said there was water damage in our original room. Sarah frowned. That's strange. The same captain refused to move me from an inside cabin, even though I have claustrophobia. Claustrophobia? Martha's face softened. That must be terrible on a ship. It usually isn't this bad, Sarah admitted. But small spaces with no windows? She shuddered. Harold leaned forward. What caused it, if you don't mind me asking? Sarah rarely talked about it, but something about the couple made her feel safe. When I was 8, I got trapped in an old freezer during hide-and-seek, she explained. It was dark, airless. I was there for 2 hours before they found me. Martha gasped. You poor thing. Ryan was the one who finally found me, Sarah continued. He heard me tapping on the metal. Ever since then, she gestured helplessly. And now you're stuck in a windowless cabin, Harold said, understanding in his eyes. That captain should be ashamed. Martha reached for Sarah's hand. Why don't you come sit with us for a while this evening? We can share stories until you're tired enough to sleep. Sarah's eyes welled up at the kindness. I'd like that very much. Ryan stood at the ship's railing as the sun began to set, piecing together what he'd learned. Beside him was Dr. Anita Peters, the ship's medical officer. I can confirm Sarah's claustrophobia is legitimate, Dr. Peters said quietly. Her medical records were sent ahead of the cruise. The captain saw them and ignored them, Ryan said grimly. He ignores a lot of things on Dr. Peters' side, including staff burnout and passenger complaints. As long as the luxury suites are full and the wealthy passengers are happy, nothing else matters. Ryan noticed her hands trembling slightly. You're risking your job talking to me. Someone needs to stand up to him, she replied. Even the first officer is afraid to challenge him. Ryan's phone buzzed with a message from his team. Background check complete on Blackwood. You need to see this. As Ryan read the report, his eyebrows rose. Well, this explains a lot. What is it? Dr. Peters asked. Let's just say the captain isn't who he pretends to be, Ryan replied. And I think it's time for a little competition. In competition? Ryan smiled, a plan forming in his mind. The captain prides himself on running a tight ship, right? Always talking about the ship's obstacle course record he holds? Yes, it's all he brags about to the officers, Dr. Peters confirmed. No one's beaten his time in 5 years. Perfect, Ryan said, his eyes gleaming with determination. I think I just found the way to help my sister and shake up the captain's perfect world at the same time. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, Ryan typed a message to Sarah. Meet me at dinner. I have an idea that might solve everything. In the growing darkness, he didn't notice Captain Blackwood watching him from the bridge, binoculars trained on this unexpected threat to his authority. Keep your friends close, the captain muttered, and Navy SEALs closer. The main dining hall sparkled with crystal glasses and polished silver. Captain Blackwood stood at his special table, raising a toast to the wealthy passengers seated around him. To the finest guests on the finest ship in the fleet, he announced, his white smile gleaming. From across the room Ryan watched, Sarah beside him. He really loves putting on a show, doesn't he? Every night, Sarah confirmed. The captain's table is only for guests who book the premium packages. Ryan took a sip of water, his eyes never leaving the captain. You said you have an idea to help me? Sarah asked nervously. I do, Ryan smiled. And it involves giving the captain exactly what he wants, an audience. Before Sarah could ask more, Ryan stood up and walked straight toward the captain's table. The room grew quiet as people noticed the Navy SEAL in his dress uniform crossing the floor with purpose. Captain Blackwood, Ryan said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. May I have a word? The captain's smile tightened. Commander Williams, I'm entertaining guests at the moment. This won't take long, Ryan assured him. I've been hearing about your famous obstacle course record. Very impressive. Blackwood's expression changed instantly. 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Unbeaten for 5 years. 5 years is a long time, Ryan said thoughtfully. I wonder if it might be time for a new record. The wealthy guests at the table leaned forward, suddenly interested. A woman in diamonds whispered to her husband. Are you suggesting, the captain began. A friendly competition, Ryan finished for him. Tomorrow morning, you and me. Best time wins. The captain laughed, though his eyes remained cold. And why would I agree to that? I'm a busy man running a luxury liner, not playing games. Ryan shrugged. Of course. I understand if you're not confident in your record anymore. Age catches up to all of us. Several guests chuckled. The captain's face reddened slightly. I can beat any time you set, Commander, he said stiffly. Wonderful, Ryan smiled. Let's make it interesting then. If I win, my sister gets moved to one of those empty suites with a balcony. The dining room went completely silent. All eyes moved between Ryan and the captain. And if I win? Blackwood asked, his voice dangerously quiet. If you win, I'll personally provide security training to your entire crew. Free of charge. That's a $50,000 value. The captain considered this, aware of the many eyes watching. He couldn't back down now without looking weak. Deal, he said finally, extending his hand. Tomorrow 10 a.m. on the sports deck. They shook hands firmly, both squeezing harder than necessary. I look forward to it, Ryan said pleasantly, then turned and walked back to his table. As soon as he sat down, excited whispers erupted throughout the dining room. Have you lost your mind, Sarah hissed. You just challenged him in front of everyone. Trust me, Ryan said, buttering a roll calmly. I've studied his record. It's impressive for a cruise ship captain, but I've run combat courses with full gear in the desert. But what if he cheats? Ryan grinned. I'm counting on it. At a nearby table, a young server named Miguel was collecting plates, his eyes wide with amazement. Did you see that? He whispered to his coworker. Someone finally stood up to him. The captain will never let him win, the other server replied nervously. I don't know, Miguel said, watching Ryan laugh with his sister. That SEAL seems pretty smart. By dessert, the news had spread to every corner of the ship. Passengers and crew alike buzzed with excitement about the morning's competition. In his office, Captain Blackwood pulled up the security footage of Ryan during his military drills that afternoon. The SEAL moved with incredible speed and precision through the training exercises. Jacobson, the captain barked into his phone. Meet me at the obstacle course in 20 minutes. Bring your toolkit. First Officer Jacobson arrived to find the captain examining the course carefully. Sir, the safety settings on these rope swings need adjusting, Blackwood said with a cold smile. And this balance beam seems dangerously loose. But, sir, that could cause injury. Nothing serious, the captain cut him off. Just enough to slow down our overconfident commander. Jacobson shifted uncomfortably. Sir, with respect, there will be hundreds of witnesses. Are you questioning my orders? Blackwood glared. No, sir, Jacobson replied, though his hands trembled slightly as he opened his toolkit. Back in the dining room, Ryan was approached by Elena from housekeeping. Commander, she whispered, glancing around nervously. The captain is at the obstacle course right now with the first officer. They're doing something to it. Ryan nodded, unsurprised. Thank you, Elena. Everyone's talking about what you did, she continued. The crew, the passengers. No one's ever challenged him like that. From across the room, Miguel watched Elena talking to Ryan. The young server had spent 2 years keeping his head down, afraid of the captain's temper. Something stirred in him as he watched the commander stand up for his sister. After dinner, Miguel approached Ryan as he was leaving. Commander Williams? The young man's voice shook slightly. I want to help. I know every inch of that obstacle course. I help maintain it. Ryan studied him thoughtfully. What's your name? Miguel Suarez, sir. I've worked here for 2 years. And why do you want to help, Miguel? The young man straightened his shoulders. Because my grandmother has claustrophobia, too. The captain wouldn't let her move rooms last year when she came to visit me. She cried every night. Ryan placed a hand on Miguel's shoulder. Meet me at 6 a.m. tomorrow by the course. And Miguel, you might want to bring your maintenance keys. As Ryan walked Sarah back to her cabin for the night, she squeezed his hand. Even if this doesn't work, thank you for trying. It'll work, Ryan assured her. But this isn't just about getting you a better room anymore. This ship has been under his thumb too long. Sometimes people need to see that bullies can be beaten. In her tiny cabin that night, Sarah struggled with her anxiety, but took comfort in knowing her brother was fighting for her. 3 decks above, Ryan reviewed the ship's blueprints, planning his strategy. And in his luxury quarters, Captain Blackwood stood before his mirror, practicing his victory speech, unaware that his perfectly controlled world was about to be turned upside down. The ship slept peacefully, but Ryan was wide awake at 5 a.m. He moved through a series of silent stretches in his quarters, his mind focused on the day ahead. 20 years of SEAL training had taught him that preparation wasn't just physical, it was mental. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Commander?" Miguel's voice came through the door. "I'm sorry it's so early." Ryan opened the door to find the young server looking nervous, but determined. "You're right on time, Miguel. Ready?" They moved quietly through the sleeping ship. The sports deck was deserted in the pre-dawn darkness, lit only by safety lights. "Here it is," Miguel whispered, pointing to the obstacle course. "The captain's pride and joy." Ryan examined the course carefully. It started with a climbing wall, followed by rope swings, balance beams, cargo nets, and ended with a series of hurdles. "Show me what they changed," Ryan said. Miguel pulled out a small flashlight. "The third rope swing has been greased. It'll slip right through your hands. And see this balance beam? They loosened the center support. It'll tip as soon as you put weight on it." Ryan nodded. "Anything else?" "The cargo net has been tightened on one side. When you climb it, you'll fall sideways into that wall." Miguel's voice hardened. He could really hurt someone. "Not today," Ryan said firmly. "Can you fix it?" Miguel held up his maintenance keys. "I can make it fair, but the captain will know someone helped you." "Leave that to me," Ryan smiled. "Just make it safe, not easier." As Miguel worked, Ryan walked the course, memorizing every inch. A military tactic flashed in his mind. Know your battlefield before the battle begins. Across the ship, Captain Blackwood was also awake early. He stood in his personal gym, running on his treadmill, pushing himself harder than usual. His assistant Valerie entered with his morning coffee. "Sir, the passenger manifest for next week's cruise needs your approval." "Later," he snapped, increasing the speed. "Any sign of the commander this morning?" "No, sir." Valerie hesitated. "But there's a lot of talk about the competition. Passengers are making bets." "Bets?" The captain almost stumbled. "On what?" Valerie looked uncomfortable. "On whether you'll win or Commander Williams." "And?" he demanded. "The odds favor Commander Williams, sir. 3-1. Blackwood slammed the stop button on the treadmill. "They'll see. I've owned this course for 5 years. No one beats me on my ship." Valerie watched him carefully. She'd worked for Captain Blackwood for 3 years, witnessing his rise to becoming one of the cruise line's most profitable captains. But lately she'd seen a different side of him. Paranoid, cruel, obsessed with maintaining his power. "Sir, about the woman with claustrophobia." "Not you too," he groaned. "Why is everyone so concerned about one passenger?" "It's just, we do have those empty suites," Valerie said cautiously. "Maybe if we just moved her." "Do you know why people respect me, Valerie?" he interrupted, toweling sweat from his face. "Because I don't make exceptions. Rules are rules." Valerie thought about the many exceptions he'd made for wealthy passengers, about the bribes he'd accepted for upgrades, about the crew complaints that mysteriously disappeared from his desk. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. The captain studied her face. "I sense disapproval. Are you with me or against me, Valerie?" The question hung in the air between them. For the first time in 3 years, Valerie considered her answer carefully. "I'm with the ship, sir," she replied finally, "and its passengers." Something cold flashed in the captain's eyes. "Interesting choice of words. Make sure you're on the sports deck at 10. I want all senior staff present when I put this SEAL in his place." In her tiny cabin, Sarah woke from a restless sleep, her heart pounding. The walls seemed to be closing in again. She fumbled for her phone in the darkness and checked the time. 6:30 a.m. She dressed quickly and escaped to the open deck, breathing deeply as the morning air filled her lungs. "Couldn't sleep either?" a voice asked. Sarah turned to find Martha and Harold sitting at a nearby table, sharing coffee. The cabin feels smaller at night, Sarah admitted, joining them. Martha patted her hand sympathetically. Everyone's talking about your brother's challenge. Quite the hero, standing up to the captain like that. Sarah sighed. I wish he hadn't made such a public thing of it. I hate being the center of attention. Sometimes that's exactly what's needed, Harold said wisely. Problems don't get fixed when they're kept quiet. But what if Ryan loses, Sarah worried. The captain will make things even worse for me. Martha leaned forward. Dear, I've spent 70 years watching people. That brother of yours isn't someone who loses. As they talked, more passengers began filling the breakfast area. Sarah noticed people glancing her way, whispering. They're all looking at me, she whispered anxiously. Of course they are, Harold smiled. You're the reason a Navy SEAL is taking on the captain. It's the most exciting thing to happen on a cruise since the midnight chocolate buffet was invented. Despite her anxiety, Sarah laughed. Then she spotted Ryan entering the dining area, looking calm and collected. He waved and joined them. Sleep well? He asked, helping himself to coffee. Not really, Sarah admitted. Ryan, everyone's staring. Let them, he shrugged, then lowered his voice. I checked out the course. Our captain friend tried to rig it. What? Sarah gasped. That's cheating. It's also been fixed, Ryan winked. But don't worry, I have a plan for that too. Martha's eyes twinkled. Young man, Harold and I were just saying we wouldn't miss this competition for anything. Ryan grinned. Front row seats for you both, I promise. By 9:30 a.m., the sports deck was packed. Crew members on break stood alongside passengers, all eager to witness the showdown. Captain Blackwood arrived in athletic wear that looked brand new, surrounded by his senior officers. He scanned the crowd, frowning when he spotted Miguel standing near the course. Something about the young server's confident posture bothered him. Check the course, he muttered to First Officer Jacobson. Make sure everything is as we left it. Jacobson returned moments later. All normal, sir. No changes. The captain relaxed slightly, then tensed again as Commander Williams appeared. The SEAL wore simple workout clothes, his military dog tags glinting in the sun. The crowd parted respectfully as he approached. Captain, Ryan nodded politely. Beautiful day for a little friendly competition. Indeed, Blackwood replied stiffly. Though I must warn you, Commander, this course requires specific techniques, not something you can master overnight. Ryan smiled. I appreciate the concern, Captain, but I've always been a quick learner. He turned to the crowd and raised his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to witness this friendly challenge between your captain and myself. The passengers cheered enthusiastically. Ryan continued. To ensure complete fairness, I suggest we each take 2 runs. Best time wins. 2 runs wasn't part of our agreement, the captain objected. True, Ryan said loudly enough for everyone to hear. But it seems only fair. After all, you designed this course. I'm just a visitor. Trapped by his own pride in the watching crowd, the captain nodded tightly. Fine. 2 runs each. Best time wins. Excellent. Ryan turned to the crowd again. And to make things even more interesting, Captain, would you agree to have the ship's photographer record every moment of our competition? For posterity? The captain's smile froze. If the photographer captured everything, any accidents on the sabotage course would be documented. Of course, he managed through gritted teeth. I have nothing to hide. Ryan caught Sarah's eye in the crowd and gave her a subtle wink. Beside her, Martha and Harold watched with knowing smiles. On the other side of the deck, Valerie studied the commander with growing admiration. The ship's activities director stepped forward with a whistle. Gentlemen, take your positions. Captain Blackwood will go first. As the captain stepped up to the starting line, Ryan leaned close and whispered, I know about the greased rope and the loose beam, Captain. Sabotage suits you about as well as that fake smile. The blood drained from Blackwood's face as the whistle blew, signaling the start of a competition that would change everything on his perfectly controlled ship. The crowd fell silent as Captain Blackwood took his position at the starting line. His confident smile looked forced now, sweat already beading on his forehead. On your mark, the activities director called out. Get set. Go! Blackwood exploded from the starting line, attacking the climbing wall with surprising speed for a ship captain. He reached the top in seconds, drawing appreciative gasps from the crowd. He's good, Sarah admitted reluctantly. Just watch, Ryan replied calmly. The captain reached the rope swings, the ones he had ordered greased. He hesitated for a split second, then grabbed the first rope and swung across easily. No slipping. His face showed momentary confusion before he masked it. When he reached the balance beam, the one that should have tipped it remained perfectly steady under his feet. His eyes darted to First Officer Jacobson, who shrugged helplessly. The captain finished the course in 4 minutes and 42 seconds, 5 seconds slower than his record, but still impressive. The crowd applauded politely as he jogged back, his face a storm cloud of suspicion. Something wrong, Captain? Ryan asked innocently. You tampered with my course, Blackwood hissed. No, I fixed it, Ryan corrected quietly. Quite a difference. Before the captain could respond, the activities director announced, Commander Williams, you're up. Ryan stepped to the starting line. Rolling his shoulders casually, the crowd's energy shifted. Passengers leaned forward. Crew members exchanged hopeful glances. Go! The director shouted. Ryan moved like water fluid, powerful, unstoppable. He scaled the climbing wall in half the time it took the captain, swinging from the top instead of climbing down the other side. The crowd gasped. That's not regulation, Blackwood protested. No rules against it, the activities director replied, checking his clipboard. Ryan hit the rope swings using momentum to carry him across all three without touching the middle platform. On the balance beam, he practically floated, arms extended like a gymnast. He's not human, Miguel whispered to Elena. Ryan reached the cargo net, spotting the uneven tension immediately. Instead of fighting it, he used the tilt to his advantage, sliding diagonally across in a controlled descent. He crossed the finish line at 3 minutes 58 seconds. The deck erupted in cheers. The passengers whooped and applauded. Several crew members forgot themselves and joined in, clapping enthusiastically before remembering the captain's glare. That's 1 round each, the activities director announced. We'll take a short break before the final runs. Ryan walked calmly to where Sarah waited with Martha and Harold. Other passengers patted his back as he passed. That was amazing, Sarah hugged him. Just getting warmed up, Ryan smiled, accepting a towel from Harold. Across the deck, Captain Blackwood was surrounded by his officers, gesturing angrily. Someone fixed the course. Find out who. Valerie stepped forward. Sir, perhaps we should focus on the next round instead of... Are you questioning me too? The captain snapped. Valerie straightened her shoulders. No, sir, I'm advising you. Everyone is watching. The captain glanced around, noticing the many eyes on him. He forced his features into a calm mask. Of course, strategy. That's what we need. Meanwhile, Miguel approached Ryan hesitantly. Commander, I need to tell you something. Ryan stepped aside with him. What is it? The captain's personal trainer told me his secret for the second round, Miguel whispered. He always conserves energy on the first run, then goes all out on the second. He's been practicing a shortcut on the cargo net. There's a handhold that lets you skip half the climb. Ryan nodded. Thanks for the intel. There's more, Miguel continued. I'm not the only one who wants to help. Look around. Ryan scanned the deck. The ship's doctor gave him a subtle thumbs up. 3 servers stood together, watching him with hope in their eyes. Even the ship's photographer winked as she checked her camera. The captain doesn't know it yet, Miguel said, but he's already lost. Not just this race. Sarah approached with 2 bottles of water. Here, stay hydrated. As Ryan took a drink, an elegant older woman in expensive jewelry approached them. Sarah recognized her from the captain's table the night before. Commander William, the woman said. Camilla Worthington. I'm a platinum-level guest on this ship. Ryan nodded politely. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Worthington. I want you to know, she said, lowering her voice, that not all of us who can afford the luxury suites approve of how the captain runs things. My husband has a heart condition. Last year, we requested a room nearer the medical office. The captain refused unless we upgraded to an even more expensive suite. I'm sorry to hear that, Ryan said sincerely. Beat him, Mrs. Worthington said firmly. My friends and I are watching. As she walked away, Ryan noticed a group of well-dressed passengers watching from the upper deck. their expressions far from friendly toward the captain. Everyone has a story, Sarah murmured. And they're all coming out now, Ryan agreed. The activities director blew his whistle. 2-minute warning for the second round. Captain Blackwood strode back to the starting line, looking more determined than ever. He locked eyes with Ryan. Ready to lose, Commander? I'm ready for whatever happens, Ryan replied calmly. First Officer Jacobson approached the captain, speaking in a low voice. Sir, I should inform you, the crew betting pool is heavily favoring the commander. The crew is betting against me? Blackwood's face flushed with anger. Not just the crew, sir. Most of the passengers, too. The captain's eyes narrowed. When this is over, I want names. Everyone who bet against me will regret it. Jacobson hesitated, then made a decision. Sir, with respect, I don't think that's the right approach. What did you say? I've served with you for 3 years, Jacobson continued, voice firmer now. But this vendetta against a passenger with a medical condition, it's wrong, sir. The captain stared at him in disbelief. You too, Jacobson? After everything I've done for your career? That's the problem, sir. It's always about power and threats with you. Jacobson stepped back. Good luck with the race. As Jacobson walked away, he passed Ryan and said loud enough for several passengers to hear, Commander, whatever happens, thank you for showing us we have a choice. The activities director raised his whistle. Captains and commanders to your positions. Final round about to begin. The atmosphere on the sports deck had transformed. What began as entertainment had become something more, a symbol of hope for change. Crew members no longer hid their support for Ryan. Passengers openly discussed the captain's past actions. Valerie watched it all from the sidelines, her tablet clutched to her chest. On the screen was an email she had drafted to cruise line headquarters, with years of documented incidents attached. Her finger hovered over the send button. Round 2, the director called out. Captain Blackwood, take your position. As the captain stepped up to the line, he realized something had shifted on his ship. For the first time in 5 years, he felt his control slipping away. The whistle blew and the final round began. Captain Blackwood exploded from the starting line like a man possessed. Gone was the controlled pace of his first run. This was raw desperation. The crowd gasped as he attacked the climbing wall with reckless speed. He's faster, Sarah whispered, gripping Ryan's arm. But less precise, Ryan observed. Watch his form. The captain reached the top of the wall and practically threw himself toward the rope swings. His technique was flawless evidence of countless practice runs when no one was watching. He cleared the balance beam with determined strides, not a single wobble. When he reached the cargo net, he revealed his secret weapon. Instead of climbing the standard route, his hand found a hidden grip point that let him traverse, diagonally, cutting seconds off his time. That's his shortcut, Miguel murmured to Ryan. No one else knows about it. The captain finished with a dramatic dive across the finish line. The activities director clicked his stopwatch. 4 minutes and 12 seconds, he announced. A new personal record for Captain Blackwood. The officers applauded dutifully. Some passengers joined in, impressed by the performance. The captain straightened, chest heaving but eyes triumphant, as he stared directly at Ryan. Beat that, Commander, he said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. Ryan handed Sarah his water bottle and stepped toward the starting line. The deck fell silent. Even the ship's engine seemed to quiet in anticipation. You've got this, Sarah called out. Martha and Harold stood beside her, both giving thumbs up. Around them, passengers and crew alike leaned forward expectantly. The whistle blew. Ryan didn't explode from the starting line. He flowed, each movement purposeful and efficient. He reached the climbing wall and scaled it with such precision that it appeared effortless, as if gravity had different rules for him. Look at that technique, Harold commented, his military background evident in his assessment. Pure efficiency, no wasted energy. On the rope swings, Ryan demonstrated why SEALs were considered elite. He didn't just swing, he twisted midair, reducing drag and increasing speed with each transfer. The balance beam became a showcase of perfect body control. Ryan didn't just cross it, he accelerated across, feet barely seeming to touch the surface. When he reached the cargo net, a murmur ran through the crowd. Would he know the captain's shortcut? Ryan approached the net from a standard angle, then suddenly shifted, his hand finding the exact hidden grip point the captain had used. But instead of following the same path, Ryan improvised, creating an even more efficient route that combined the shortcut with a seal climbing technique. "I've never seen anyone move like that," Miguel gasped. The final hurdles were a blur of precision and power. Ryan crossed the finish line and stopped so smoothly it seemed he could have continued for miles. The activities director stared at his stopwatch in disbelief. 3 minutes and 47 seconds, he announced, voice cracking with excitement. "Commander Williams wins." The deck erupted. Crew members cheered openly now, no longer concerned with the captain's reaction. Passengers applauded and whistled. Sarah jumped up and down, embracing Martha and Harold. But Ryan's eyes were fixed on Captain Blackwood, who stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief. "Impossible," the captain muttered. "No one could—" "Fair and square, Captain," Ryan said, approaching with an extended hand. It was a good competition. For a moment it seemed Blackwood might refuse the handshake. Then, aware of hundreds of watching eyes, he briefly clasped Ryan's hand. "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "An impressive performance." "Thank you," Ryan replied. "And about our agreement?" The captain's eyes hardened. "I'll have my staff look into available accommodations." "Actually," Ryan said loudly enough for those nearby to hear, "since this was a public challenge with public terms, I'd appreciate if my sister's upgrade could be handled immediately. One of those 5 empty balcony suites we discussed would be perfect." Blackwood's smile was brittle. "My first officer will handle it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ship to run." He turned and strode away, his officers scrambling to follow. The crowd parted to let him through. The dynamic between captain and passengers visibly altered. Sarah rushed to Ryan, hugging him tightly. "You did it! That was amazing!" "You're getting your room with a view," Ryan smiled, returning the hug. "It's not just about the room anymore," Sarah said quietly. "Did you see everyone's faces? This meant something to them." Ryan nodded. "Sometimes people just need to see that the impossible isn't actually impossible." As the crowd began to disperse, Martha and Harold approached with wide smiles. "Commander, that was spectacular," Harold said, shaking Ryan's hand vigorously. "Reminded me of my military days, though I was never that fast, even in my prime." "Thank you, sir," Ryan replied respectfully. Martha leaned closer. "We wanted you to know we've started something. A petition." "A petition?" Sarah asked. Harold nodded. "After meeting you and hearing your story, we started talking to other passengers. Turns out a lot of people have had problems with the captain's policies. We've collected over 60 signatures already," Martha added, producing a tablet. "Passengers requesting that the cruise line review Captain Blackwood's conduct." Ryan examined the digital document, impressed by its professional wording. "Harold was a lawyer before retiring," Martha explained with pride. "Still knows how to phrase things properly." "This could actually make a difference," Ryan said thoughtfully. "That's the idea," Harold confirmed. "One voice might be ignored. 60 paying customers? That's harder to dismiss." As they talked, First Officer Jacobson approached. "Commander Williams, if you and Ms. Williams would follow me, I'll handle your cabin reassignment personally." "Thank you," Ryan said. Jacobson lowered his voice. "Just so you know, the captain is displeased. I'd watch your back." "I always do," Ryan assured him. As they followed Jacobson, Sarah nudged her brother. "The captain doesn't seem like someone who accepts defeat gracefully." "No," Ryan agreed. "Which is exactly why I had Miguel record the entire race on his phone, including the captain's reaction. Insurance." Sarah laughed. "You really do think of everything." "Not everything," Ryan admitted. "But I did notice something interesting during the race." "What's that?" Ryan's expression turned serious. "When the captain used that shortcut on the cargo net, that's not something a cruise ship captain would typically know. That's a tactical climbing technique, military grade." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying our captain might not be exactly who he claims to be," Ryan replied quietly. "And that makes my other mission on this ship even more interesting." Sarah looked at him in surprise. "Other mission? What aren't you telling me?" Ryan placed a finger to his lips as they reached the elevator. "Later. For now, let's get you that room with a view." I have a feeling the captain's troubles are just beginning. On the bridge, Captain Blackwood stared out at the ocean, his knuckles white as he gripped the railing. His perfect world was crumbling, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt something he thought he'd left behind forever. Fear. Sarah stepped into her new suite and gasped. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a space larger than her entire apartment back home. A private balcony overlooked the sparkling ocean. "This is amazing," she breathed, running her hand over the plush, king-size bed. First Officer Jacobson smiled. "The Dolphin Suite, one of our finest." "Thank you," Sarah said sincerely. "Don't thank me," Jacobson replied. "Your brother earned this." After Jacobson left, Sarah explored the spacious bathroom with its rainfall shower and jacuzzi tub. No more panic attacks in that tiny inside cabin. She stepped onto the balcony, breathing deeply as the sea breeze caressed her face. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Room service," a cheerful voice called out. Sarah opened the door to find Miguel pushing a cart loaded with champagne, strawberries, and chocolates. "I didn't order this," she said, confused. Miguel grinned. "Compliments of the crew. Everyone's talking about your brother standing up to the captain." "That's so kind," Sarah said, touched by the gesture. "Your brother is changing things," Miguel said, lowering his voice. "For the first time, people aren't afraid to speak up." After Miguel left, Sarah took a photo of the suite and texted it to Ryan. "Mission accomplished. Where are you?" Ryan's reply was immediate. "Meeting with my team. Strange developments. Talk later." Sarah had just settled onto the balcony with a book when her phone chimed with a video call. Tommy's excited face appeared on screen. "Ms. Williams, are you on the big boat?" the 6-year-old asked, his glasses slightly crooked. "I am, Tommy," Sarah smiled, turning the phone to show the ocean view. "See?" "Wow," Tommy's eyes widened. "Are you scared?" "Not anymore," Sarah said gently. "I have a room with big windows now, just like we talked about." "Did you do the brave breathing?" Sarah smiled. The brave breathing technique was something she had taught Tommy to manage his anxiety. "I did. It helped a lot." "I did brave breathing yesterday when Josh was being mean," Tommy said proudly. "I didn't even cry." "That's amazing, Tommy. I'm so proud of you." After promising to show him photos of dolphins if she spotted any, Sarah ended the call with a full heart. Her work with these children meant everything to her. Meanwhile, Captain Blackwood paced his office, rage simmering beneath his carefully controlled expression. "The Navy SEAL made a fool of me," he snarled at Valerie, "in front of my entire ship." "With respect, sir," Valerie replied cautiously, "you agreed to the terms. He won fairly." "Fairly?" Blackwood laughed bitterly. "Nothing about this is fair. I've spent years building my reputation on the ship, and he destroys it in one day?" "The suite has already been reassigned to his sister," Valerie reported. "Fine," the captain waved dismissively. "Let her have it. But I want that SEAL watched, every moment. Something's not right about his presence here." "Yes, sir," Valerie said, making notes on her tablet. "Also, the entertainment director wants to know if you'll still be hosting tonight's captain's dinner, considering—" "Of course I will," Blackwood snapped. "Nothing has changed. I am still the master of this vessel." Valerie hesitated. "Sir, there's one more thing. Passenger complaints have increased by 40% since yesterday. Many are asking why other medical accommodation requests were denied when Miss Williams received hers." The captain's face darkened. "They're questioning my decisions now?" Before Valerie could respond, the ship's satellite phone rang, the direct line from cruise line headquarters. Blackwood snatched it up. "Blackwood speaking." As he listened, the color drained from his face. Valerie watched in fascination as the captain's entire demeanor transformed. His back straightened, his voice softened, and an obsequious smile spread across his face. "Yes, of course, Ms. Rodriguez, an absolute honor. The crew will be thrilled. We'll prepare everything immediately. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning." He hung up, staring at the phone in shock. "Sir," Valerie prompted, "is everything okay?" "CEO Rodriguez is coming, tomorrow. Surprise inspection," he said, his voice hollow, "with the entire executive team." Valerie gasped. but they never do surprise inspections in the middle of a cruise. They do now, apparently. The captain ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time in Valerie's memory. She said something about addressing passenger concerns personally. He suddenly grabbed Valerie's arm. The petition, that blasted petition the old couple was circulating, it must have reached headquarters somehow. What do we do? Valerie asked, watching her normally unflappable boss unravel before her eyes. Blackwood took a deep breath, visibly forcing himself back into control. We prepare. Everything must be perfect. Call an emergency staff meeting. All department heads. 15 minutes. As Valerie hurried out, the captain turned to his mirror, straightening his uniform and practicing his smile, the one that had charmed his way up from deckhand to captain. No one takes my ship from me, he whispered to his reflection. No one. In the crew mess hall, word of the CEO's visit spread like wildfire. Is it true? Elena asked Miguel as he entered. Rodriguez is coming? Tomorrow morning by helicopter, Miguel confirmed. The captain's called an emergency meeting. This is our chance, Unon, an older waiter said, leaning forward, to tell her how things really work around here. The room fell silent as First Officer Jacobson entered. Crew members watched him warily. I know what you're all thinking, Jacobson said quietly, and I want you to know I'm with you. Surprised murmurs spread through the room. The captain has gone too far, Jacobson continued. I've documented every incident of misconduct for the past year. Every denied medical accommodation. Every time staff were threatened or mistreated. You have? Miguel asked in disbelief. Jacobson nodded. I joined this company to help people have the vacation of their dreams. Not to be part of whatever this has become. Elena stepped forward. So what do we do when Rodriguez arrives? We tell the truth, Jacobson said simply. All of us, together. Ryan met his SEAL team in their secure room, hidden deep in the ship's lower decks. Report, he ordered, closing the door. Lieutenant Jenkins pulled up digital files on their secure laptop. We've been monitoring all communications as ordered, Commander. Nothing suspicious until about 20 minutes ago. What happened 20 minutes ago? The captain received a call from cruise line headquarters. CEO Rodriguez is making a surprise visit tomorrow. Jenkins looked up. Right after that, the captain made 3 encrypted calls from his private satellite phone. Ryan frowned. Were you able to trace them? Negative. But the timing is concerning. If our intel about a security threat on this ship is accurate, then the captain's sudden panic about a CEO visit could force their hand, Ryan finished. Good work. Keep monitoring. I want to know every move Blackwood makes in the next 24 hours. As the team continued their work, Ryan stared at the surveillance photo of Captain Blackwood. Something had been bothering him since the race. The way the captain moved, his tactical knowledge, the military precise way he ran his ship. Run his background check again, Ryan ordered. Deeper this time. Military databases, international intelligence. Something doesn't add up. Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. You won't believe this. The ship's doctor just came by with flowers and an apology. Said the captain ordered him to check on my condition and make sure the suite meets medical requirements. What's going on? Ryan smiled grimly as he typed his reply. The captain just found out his boss is coming tomorrow. Suddenly he cares about medical conditions. Back in his office, Captain Blackwood stood before his department heads, his transformation remarkable. Gone was the tyrannical captain of yesterday. In his place stood a concerned, compassionate leader. I've been reflecting, he announced, his voice gentle, on how we can better serve our passengers with special needs. In fact, I've decided to implement a new accommodation policy immediately. The staff exchanged shocked glances. From now on, he continued, all medical-based room requests will be prioritized. Refunds will be issued to any passengers previously denied such accommodations. Dr. Peters raised her hand hesitantly. Sir, that's the exact policy I proposed 6 months ago, the one you called financial suicide. People change, Doctor, the captain replied smoothly. I've seen the error of my ways. After outlining more passenger-friendly policies, he dismissed the meeting with a benevolent smile. Remember, when CEO Rodriguez arrives, I want her to see one big happy family. As the staff filed out, many struggling to hide their disbelief, Valerie remained behind. Impressive performance, she said coolly when they were alone. Excuse me, the captain's smile faded. The sudden concern for passengers, the rule changes, the apologies. Valerie met his gaze steadily. All because the CEO is coming. Watch yourself, Blackwood warned. I can still make your life very difficult. You already have, Valerie replied, setting a folder on his desk. Inside is my letter of resignation, effective after Ms. Rodriguez's visit. Also included is a copy of all documentation I've kept over the past 3 years. The captain opened the folder, his face paling as he flipped through the pages. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself, Valerie corrected, and now I'm protecting the passengers and crew who deserve better. She walked to the door, then turned back. The staff isn't stupid, Captain. They know this new attitude is fake. The question is, does Ms. Rodriguez know that too? As the door closed behind her, Captain Blackwood stared at the damning documentation in his hands. Everything was falling apart, and somewhere on his ship, a Navy SEAL was digging into his past, a past he had spent a fortune to bury. With shaking hands, he reached for his private satellite phone. He had one call left to make a last resort he never thought he'd need. It's me, he said when a voice answered. I need extraction, tomorrow. Dawn broke over the ocean with stunning orange and pink streaks as the cruise ship was transformed into a flurry of activity. Crew members polished already gleaming railings. Fresh flowers appeared in every hallway. Smiling staff practiced saying, "Good morning," with perfect enthusiasm. Captain Blackwood hadn't slept. His usually immaculate uniform was wrinkled from his restless night. Dark circles under his eyes as he barked orders from the bridge. More flowers in the main lobby. And where are those welcome banners? They should have been up an hour ago. First Officer Jacobson approached cautiously. Sir, the helicopter pad is prepped for CEO Rodriguez's arrival. Security team is in position. And the passenger files? Did you flag all the VIPs for her to meet? Blackwood demanded. Yes, sir. Also, Jacobson hesitated. I took the liberty of adding Miss Williams to that list. The captain's head snapped up. The kindergarten teacher? Why would Rodriguez want to meet her? She's been the center of significant events on this cruise, sir. I thought it might look suspicious if we didn't include her. Blackwood stared at Jacobson for a long moment. Fine, but keep her brother away from the CEO. The last thing I need is that SEAL filling Rodriguez's head with complaints. I'll try, sir, Jacobson replied, knowing full well he would do no such thing. In her luxurious suite, Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through the balcony doors. For the first time since boarding, she'd slept peacefully through the night. She stepped onto the balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the crew's unusual activity below. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ryan. Morning. Sis, big day ahead. Meet me for breakfast? 20 minutes later, they sat at a corner table in the main restaurant. Ryan's back to the wall, a military habit he'd never broken. Why is everyone rushing around like crazy? Sarah asked, buttering her toast. CEO Rodriguez arrives in exactly, Ryan checked his watch, 57 minutes, and our captain is panicking. The cruise line CEO here? Ryan nodded. Remember that petition Martha and Harold started? Turns out Mrs. Worthington, that wealthy passenger I told you about, has connections. She made sure it reached Rodriguez directly. Sarah's eyes widened. So the captain is in trouble? More than he knows. Ryan leaned closer. My team found something in his background. Richard Blackwood isn't his real name. What? Who is he? Ryan glanced around before continuing quietly. His real name is Richard Blake, former lieutenant in the Merchant Marines, discharged under suspicious circumstances 10 years ago. He changed his name and created a new identity to get hired by this cruise line. That's why he seemed so military in the obstacle course, Sarah realized. But why fake his identity? Still working on that, Ryan replied. But here's where it gets interesting. He made 3 encrypted calls yesterday after learning about the CEO's visit. We traced one to a private yacht currently shadowing our course about 30 miles out. Sarah's face paled. You think he's planning something? I think he's planning to run, Ryan corrected. The question is why? What's he so afraid of CEO Rodriguez discovering? Their conversation was interrupted by a ship-wide announcement. All crew to inspection stations. VIP arrival in 30 minutes. Ryan stood. I need to position my team. CEO Rodriguez thinks we're just here for routine security exercises. But now I need to keep a close eye on her too and the captain. What should I do? Sarah asked. Enjoy your suite, Ryan smiled. You earned it. But keep your phone on. Something tells me this day is about to get very interesting. At precisely 10:00 a.m., a sleek black helicopter emblazoned with the cruise line's logo appeared on the horizon. The ship's officers lined up in perfect formation on the helipad, Captain Blackwood at their center, his smile fixed firmly in place. As the helicopter touched down, Ryan positioned himself discreetly behind a service door, watching through a narrow window. His team was stationed strategically throughout the ship, all on high alert. The helicopter's door opened, and out stepped a striking woman in her early 50s, impeccably dressed in a white pantsuit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her posture radiating authority. CEO Carmen Rodriguez, Ryan murmured into his communication device. 4 executives with her, standard security detail. Captain Blackwood stepped forward with practiced charm. Ms. Rodriguez, what an unexpected pleasure. Welcome aboard the Oceanic Star. Rodriguez's handshake was brief. Captain Blackwood, I trust my arrival hasn't disrupted your operations? Not at all. We're delighted to have you aboard. I've arranged a special tour to showcase our exceptional service and... No need, Rodriguez cut him off. I've seen the promotional materials. I'm here to see what happens behind the scenes. The real ship, not the brochure version. The captain's smile faltered momentarily. Of course, whatever you wish. As the group moved inside, Ryan followed at a distance, observing the captain's growing discomfort as Rodriguez asked pointed questions about staff turnover rates and passenger complaint procedures. Is it true, she asked as they reached the main atrium, that medical accommodation requests require your personal approval? I ensure all requests receive proper attention, Blackwood replied carefully. Interesting, Rodriguez made a note on her tablet. And these accommodation decisions, they're based on medical documentation, not passenger spending levels? The captain's smile became strained. Absolutely. Passenger welfare is our primary concern. Ryan stifled a laugh as he watched the captain's performance crumble under Rodriguez's precise questioning. The woman was good methodical, observant, cutting through Blackwood's rehearsed responses with surgical precision. As they continued their tour, Ryan messaged his team, Stay alert. Captain's getting desperate. Sarah was reading on her balcony when a knock came at her door. She opened it to find First Officer Jacobson looking uncomfortable. Miss Williams? I'm sorry to disturb you, but your presence is requested in the captain's lounge in 30 minutes. Sarah frowned. Why? CEO Rodriguez has specifically asked to meet with certain passengers. You're on her list. Me? But why would the CEO want to meet me? Jacobson allowed himself a small smile. I believe that petition about the captain's conduct has made quite an impression. Several passengers who signed it have been invited. After Jacobson left, Sarah called Ryan, who answered immediately. I just heard, he said before she could explain. Rodriguez is methodically meeting with everyone the captain has wronged. She's building a case. But I don't want to get anyone in trouble, Sarah worried. I got my room upgrade, it's over. It's bigger than just your room now, Sar. This is about changing how things are run on this ship for all the passengers and crew. Sarah sighed. You're right, I'll go. Wear something nice, Ryan advised. And Sarah? Something tells me there's more to this meeting than just the petition. In the captain's lounge, CEO Rodriguez sat reviewing files while her team conducted interviews with crew members in adjacent rooms. Captain Blackwood hovered nearby, trying to appear relaxed and failing miserably. "You've created quite a unique atmosphere on this ship, Captain," Rodriguez remarked without looking up. "Thank you," he replied, uncertain if it was a compliment. "That wasn't one," she said flatly, finally meeting his eyes. "Your passenger satisfaction scores have plummeted while your premium suite bookings have increased. An unusual combination. I can explain." "I'm sure you can," Rodriguez cut him off. "Just as I'm sure you can explain why your crew turnover is triple our fleet average, or why medical accommodation requests are denied at 6 times the rate of other ships." Blackwood swallowed hard. Different management styles yield different results. "Indeed." Rodriguez closed her folder. "Tell me about Sarah Williams." The captain froze. "The kindergarten teacher? A minor issue already resolved. She has her upgrade now. After her brother, a Navy SEAL, publicly challenged and defeated you," Rodriguez noted. "Not exactly proactive customer service." Before Blackwood could respond, the door opened, and Sarah entered the lounge. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back neatly. "Miss Williams," Rodriguez stood, her stern expression instantly warming. "Thank you for coming." Sarah stepped forward. "Thank you for inviting me, Miss Rodriguez, though I'm not sure why." Rodriguez studied Sarah's face. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Confusion crossed Sarah's features. "Should I?" "Columbus Elementary School 3 years ago. You taught my granddaughter, Lily." Sarah's eyes widened. "Lily Rodriguez? Of course. She was in my class after she moved to live with her grandmother. You picked her up sometimes." Rodriguez smiled, the first genuine smile since her arrival. "Lily had severe anxiety after losing her parents. Couldn't speak in public. Couldn't function in a classroom until she met you." Captain Blackwood watched in growing horror as Rodriguez placed a hand on Sarah's arm. "This woman," Rodriguez said, turning to the captain, "taught my granddaughter how to breathe through panic attacks, created special spaces where she felt safe. Lily went from being unable to speak to giving a class presentation in under 6 months." Sarah blushed. "She was an amazing child. I just helped her find her voice." "You did more than that," Rodriguez corrected. "You changed her life. She's thriving now, student council president at her middle school." The captain's mind raced as he watched the warm exchange. This was bad, very bad. The CEO had a personal connection to the very passenger he had humiliated. "When I saw your name on the passenger manifest," Rodriguez continued, "I planned to surprise you, thank you properly. Then I received this." She held up a tablet showing the petition. "Imagine my shock discovering that the teacher who helped my granddaughter was being mistreated on one of my ships." "It was just a misunderstanding," Sarah began. "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "Based on what I've learned today, it was part of a pattern." She turned to Blackwood, her expression hardening. "Captain, I'd like you to wait outside while I speak with Ms. Williams privately." As Blackwood slunk out, Ryan watched from his observation point. Things were unraveling for the captain even faster than he'd anticipated, yet something still bothered him. Those encrypted calls, the yacht following their course. The captain might be losing his position, but Ryan's instincts told him the man had one more desperate move to make. And desperate men were dangerous. Ryan radioed his team. "Captain's on the move. Don't let him out of your sight." "She had nightmares every night," CEO Rodriguez said, her professional demeanor softening as she showed Sarah photos of her granddaughter on her phone. "After my son and his wife died in the accident, Lily stopped speaking entirely. The therapist said it might be years before she recovered." Sarah smiled at a photo of a grinning Lily holding a science fair trophy. "She was so bright, even when she couldn't speak. Those little notes she would write me." "You still have them?" Rodriguez asked, surprised. "Of course," Sarah nodded. "I keep all my students' special messages. But Lily's, they were different. So thoughtful, even through her pain." Rodriguez leaned forward. "Tell me what really happened with Captain Blackwood, the complete story." Sarah described her panic attack in the tiny cabin, showing the CEO her doctor's note about claustrophobia. She explained the captain's dismissive attitude and how he had immediately upgraded wealthy guests right in front of her. Then Ryan showed up, pure coincidence. Or fate, maybe. Your brother sounds remarkable, Rodriguez said. He is. He's protected me my whole life. But this... Sarah shook her head. This was different. He saw something wrong and fixed it. Not just for me, but for everyone. The crew started speaking up. Passengers shared their stories. Rodriguez's expression darkened. I've heard many of those stories today. This ship has become the exact opposite of what our company stands for. Outside the lounge, Captain Blackwood paced nervously, checking his watch repeatedly. First Officer Jacobson watched him with growing suspicion. Sir, the executive team is requesting the quarterly financial reports, Jacobson said. Not now, Blackwood snapped. They specifically asked about the upgrade charges. Sir, the pattern of premium suite bookings. The captain's eyes darted around. Handle it, Jacobson. That's what first officers do. Without access to your private accounting system, sir, I can't provide those numbers. Blackwood's face flushed. Fine, I'll deal with it later. Just keep everyone away from my office. Inside the lounge, Sarah and Rodriguez were looking at more photos of Lily, including recent ones of her speaking at a school assembly. She mentions you all the time, Rodriguez said. When I told her I run cruise lines, she asked if I could give her favorite teacher a free vacation someday. Sarah laughed. That sounds like Lily. Rodriguez's face turned serious. I'm deeply sorry for how you were treated on this ship. It's unacceptable. It worked out in the end, Sarah shrugged. Because your brother is a Navy SEAL, Rodriguez pointed out. What about passengers without such advocates? Before Sarah could answer, the door opened and Martha and Harold entered, looking slightly overwhelmed. Mrs. Worthington said we should come right in, Martha explained nervously. Rodriguez smiled warmly. Please do. You must be Martha and Harold Thomas, the petition organizers. Harold straightened his posture. Yes, ma'am. We felt someone needed to speak up. And I'm grateful you did, Rodriguez assured them. Your petition reached me directly thanks to Camilla Worthington's connections. As they settled into chairs, Ryan slipped into the room, standing quietly by the door. Rodriguez noticed him immediately. Commander Williams, I presume, she asked. Yes, ma'am. Ryan nodded respectfully. Hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. In fact, I've been hoping to speak with you. Rodriguez gestured to an empty chair. Your security exercises are just a cover story, aren't they? The room fell silent. Sarah looked at her brother in confusion. Ryan hesitated, then made a decision. Yes, ma'am. My team is investigating a security threat believed to be operating on this ship. The exercises provide our cover. What kind of threat? Rodriguez asked sharply. We received intelligence about potential financial fraud involving passenger data being sold on the dark web. The source was traced to this vessel. Sarah gasped. Identity theft? Ryan nodded grimly. Credit cards, passports, personal information, all highly valuable on the black market, especially from wealthy cruise passengers. And you suspect? Rodriguez began. I didn't know who to suspect until recently, Ryan admitted. But after seeing certain patterns of behavior and discovering the captain's hidden past... Hidden past? Martha echoed. Ryan looked to Rodriguez. Did you know Captain Blackwood is actually Richard Blake? Dishonorably discharged from the Merchant Marines 10 years ago for suspected theft of passenger valuables? Rodriguez's expression hardened. We run background checks on all employees. Not on people who don't exist, Ryan countered. Richard Blackwood is a complete fabrication right down to his credentials. My team discovered he purchased this identity on the black market. Harold leaned forward. That would explain his military-style movements during the obstacle course challenge. I noticed it immediately. Exactly, Ryan agreed. He's had training, just not the kind listed in his cruise line biography. Rodriguez pulled out her tablet and began typing furiously. I'm ordering a complete security audit immediately. If passenger data has been compromised... It's worse than that, Ryan interrupted. Since yesterday, the captain has been making encrypted calls to a yacht that's following this ship's course. I believe he's planning to jump ship literally. The door burst open, and a breathless Miguel appeared. Commander, the captain's gone. What do you mean, gone? Ryan demanded, instantly alert. He went to his office 10 minutes ago, then left carrying a small bag. He's heading for the crew lifeboats on the lower deck. Ryan was already moving. Alert my team. Lock down all exit points. I'll notify ship security, Rodriguez said, reaching for the phone. Sarah caught her brother's arm. Be careful. If he's desperate enough to run. I know, Ryan squeezed her hand. Stay here with Martha and Harold. I'll handle this. As Ryan disappeared, Rodriguez turned to the others. I need to coordinate with security. Please wait here. Once alone, Sarah paced anxiously while Martha and Harold watched with concern. He'll be fine, dear, Martha said soothingly. Your brother knows what he's doing. It's not just Ryan I'm worried about, Sarah replied. If the captain has been stealing passenger information, how many people could be affected? Harold's expression was grim. On a ship this size, thousands. And if he's been doing it for years. The door opened again, and they all turned expectantly. But it was Valerie who entered, looking distressed. Miss Williams, I need to show you something, she said urgently, holding up a tablet. I found this in the captain's office. He didn't know I made a copy. Sarah took the tablet and gasped. On the screen was a passenger profile, her own with detailed personal information highlighted, home address, banking details, social security number. He was targeting me specifically? Sarah asked, horrified. Not just you. Valerie scrolled through more profiles. Anyone who complained about him. He collected their data as insurance. Blackmail, Harold said coldly, in case anyone threatened his position. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Captain heading for starboard emergency boats. Backup needed. Without hesitation, Sarah showed Valerie the message. We need to help Ryan. Can you get us there? Valerie nodded firmly. Follow me, I know a shortcut. As they rushed from the room, Martha called after them. We'll tell Rodriguez where you've gone. Sarah followed Valerie through a series of crew passages, descending deeper into the ship. Her heart pounded, but not from claustrophobia, from determination. This man had threatened her identity, her security, her students. This was no longer about a room upgrade. It was about stopping someone who had abused his power to hurt people. And Sarah Williams, kindergarten teacher from Ohio, was about to prove she was every bit as brave as her Navy SEAL brother. Ryan moved silently through the crew passages, his SEAL training kicking in automatically. Two members of his team flanked him, communicating with hand signals as they descended toward the emergency boat deck. Security cameras show he's heading to Lifeboat Station 4, Lieutenant Jenkins whispered, checking her tactical tablet. Carrying a waterproof duffel bag. Ryan nodded. External communications? He made one last call before ditching his phone. Same encrypted channel as before. They reached a junction where the passage split. Ryan pointed left and right, directing his team members to cover both routes. He took the center path, moving with the silent precision that had kept him alive through 3 combat tours. 2 decks below, Sarah and Valerie rushed through narrow service corridors. I can't believe he was stealing passenger information, Sarah said as they hurried down a steep stairwell. It started small, Valerie explained breathlessly. Premium guests, big spenders. He'd copy their credit card details, sell them through online channels. Then he got bolder. And no one caught him? He controls all the systems on the ship. Anyone who got suspicious was transferred or fired. Valerie's face showed years of suppressed anger. I started gathering evidence months ago, but I couldn't prove he was behind it. They reached a heavy metal door. Valerie swiped her key card, and it swung open to reveal a stark industrial area, the lifeboat's mechanical control room. The starboard emergency boats are through there. Valerie pointed to another door across the room. But we should wait for your brother. If the captain is as desperate as I think. My brother taught me something important, Sarah interrupted, moving forward. When someone's doing something wrong, you don't wait. You act. On the bridge, CEO Rodriguez had taken command, surrounded by her executive team and the ship's officers. I want every security feed on these monitors, she ordered, and get me an update on Commander Williams' position. First Officer Jacobson stepped forward. Ma'am, there's something else you should know. I've been reviewing the financial records. The captain hasn't just been stealing passenger data. He's been skimming from the ship's accounts too. Show me, Rodriguez demanded. Jacobson pulled up financial records on the main screen. These premium suite bookings? Many were recorded as standard cabins in the official system, with the difference going to private accounts. Over 5 years, we're talking millions. Rodriguez's expression darkened. No wonder our profit margins on this ship never match the premium booking rates. There's more, Jacobson continued, pulling up another screen. That yacht following us? It's registered to a shell company. 3 former crew members who were fired for insubordination work on it now. He's built his own escape network, Rodriguez realized, complete with accomplices. The security chief approached urgently. Ma'am, we have a problem. Station 4's emergency launch mechanism has been activated. Someone's preparing a lifeboat for launch. Captain Blackwood worked quickly, overriding the lifeboat's safety protocols. His fingers flew over the keypad with practiced efficiency as he glanced nervously over his shoulder. The yacht was just 30 minutes away. All he needed was a clean getaway in the emergency craft. Inside his waterproof duffel were 3 hard drives containing years of stolen data, offshore account numbers, and $5 million in cryptocurrency access codes. His new identity documents were tucked in a hidden pocket. Within hours, Richard Blackwood would cease to exist. He'd known it might end this way. That's why he'd prepared, created contingencies. The cruise line might get his ship, but they'd never get his money. A noise made him freeze. Someone was in the control room. Ryan reached the mechanical control room just as Sarah and Valerie emerged from the opposite door. Sarah, he hissed, shocked. What are you doing here? Helping you, she replied firmly. The captain has been collecting passengers' personal information, including mine. Ryan's expression hardened. All the more reason for you to stay back. This man is cornered and desperate. We don't have time to argue, Valerie interrupted. The lifeboat launch sequence has been initiated. Once it's in the water, we can't stop him. Ryan made a quick decision. Valerie, go back and guide my team here. Sarah, stay behind me. No heroics. They moved toward the exit leading to the lifeboat deck. Through the small window, they could see Captain Blackwood working frantically at the lifeboat controls. I'll approach from the front, Ryan whispered. He doesn't know you're here, which gives us an advantage. Sarah nodded, her heart racing but her mind clear. Be careful. Ryan slipped out the door, moving along the deck's edge until he was within speaking distance of the captain. Going somewhere, Captain? Or should I call you Lieutenant Blake? Ryan called out. Blackwood spun around, his face contorting with anger when he saw the seal. This doesn't concern you, Commander. Identity theft, financial fraud, endangering passengers? It all concerns me, Ryan replied, slowly moving closer. The yacht won't make it in time. Security knows everything. You understand nothing, Blackwood snarled, backing toward the lifeboat. I built this life from nothing, took what should have been mine, what they all owed me. By stealing from passengers who trusted you, from people with medical conditions who needed your help? Ryan took another step forward. That's not taking what's owed. That's being a predator. The captain's hand moved to his pocket. Stay back. I'm leaving this ship one way or another. There's nowhere to go, Ryan said calmly. The yacht has been identified. Authorities are already tracking it. Blackwood's eyes darted wildly around, searching for escape routes. You're lying! Captain Richard Blackwood, formerly Lieutenant Richard Blake, a commanding voice called out. CEO Rodriguez emerged from the control room door, flanked by security officers. Your career with this cruise line is officially terminated. While all attention was focused on the confrontation, Sarah spotted something alarming. The captain had already programmed the lifeboat's automatic launch sequence. The control panel was silently counting down. 30 seconds. If the boat launched with all the stolen data on board, they might never recover it. Thousands of passengers would remain vulnerable. Making a split-second decision, Sarah slipped around the edge of the deck while everyone's attention was fixed on the captain. She reached the lifeboat's secondary control panel, similar to the ones she'd seen during the mandatory safety drill. "Keep him talking," she whispered to herself, trying to remember the emergency override code Miguel had mentioned during their conversation about ship safety. "It's over, Blake," Rodriguez said firmly. "We have all the evidence, the fake identity, the data theft, the financial fraud. Turn yourself in now and it will go better for you." The captain's confident facade crumbled. For a moment they glimpsed the man behind the uniform, scared, angry, trapped. "You don't understand what it's like," he said, his voice breaking. "Working for years, watching rich people throw away in one night what takes a year to earn. They don't deserve their privilege." "Neither did I," Rodriguez replied calmly. "I grew up in government housing, worked my way through community college as a housekeeper. Nothing was handed to me." This visibly stunned the captain. "You?" "Me. The difference is, I didn't build my success by hurting others." Rodriguez took a step forward. "You had real talent, real potential. You could have earned everything legitimately." The captain glanced at the lifeboat's control panel, noticing the countdown. 15 seconds. A smug smile returned to his face. "Too late for speeches," he said. "In 10 seconds, that boat launches with or without me on it, and all your passenger data goes with it." Ryan suddenly noticed the countdown and Sarah crouched by the secondary panel. His heart stopped. "Sarah, get back!" he shouted. The captain whipped around, seeing Sarah for the first time. "What are you doing? Get away from there!" Sarah's fingers flew over the keypad as the countdown reached 5 seconds. She entered the final digit of the override code just as the captain lunged toward her. Ryan moved instantly, intercepting the captain with a textbook takedown that sent them both crashing to the deck. Security officers rushed forward, restraining Blackwood as he thrashed and cursed. The countdown froze at 1 second. Sarah stood up, shaking but triumphant. "Emergency override successful," she announced, sounding surprised at her own courage. Ryan secured the captain with security officers before rushing to Sarah. "That was either the bravest or most reckless thing I've ever seen." "I learned from the best," she replied with a weak smile. Rodriguez approached the lifeboat and retrieved the captain's duffel bag. Inside were the hard drives, exactly as Ryan had described. "The evidence is secure," she confirmed. "Captain Blake will face federal charges for identity theft, fraud, and corporate espionage." As security led the former captain away, the crew members who had gathered to watch broke into spontaneous applause. Elena, Miguel, and Dr. Peters pushed to the front, cheering loudest of all. Valerie approached Rodriguez, holding up her tablet. "Miss Rodriguez, I have complete documentation of all incidents over the past 3 years. Passenger complaints, medical accommodations denied, crew mistreatment, everything." "Excellent work," Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "I'll need someone with your attention to detail to help rebuild passenger trust in the ship. Someone who knows where all the problems are." Valerie blinked in surprise. "Are you offering me a job?" "We'll discuss your promotion once we get this situation fully resolved," Rodriguez replied with a smile. As the excitement settled, First Officer Jacobson approached Ryan and Sarah. "Commander Williams, Miss Williams," he said formally. "On behalf of the crew, thank you. For the first time in years, people are standing tall on this ship." Ryan shook his hand. "You were part of this, too. You chose to do the right thing when it mattered." Sarah looked around at the gathering of crew members and passengers who had heard the commotion and come to investigate. Martha and Harold had appeared, giving her encouraging thumbs up. "It wasn't just us," Sarah said. "It was everyone who spoke up, everyone who signed that petition, everyone who shared their story." Miguel stepped forward. "Ms. Williams, some of us were wondering, would you tell us how you knew the override code? None of us caught that the lifeboat was about to launch." Sarah smiled. "I pay attention to details. It's what kindergarten teachers do. We notice when something's wrong, even when others miss it." As they made their way back to the main deck, Ryan put his arm around his sister's shoulders. "When did my little sister become such a hero?" "I've always been a hero," Sarah laughed. "Just a different kind than you." Above them, The sun shone brightly on a ship transformed, not by luxury renovations or expensive upgrades, but by the courage of ordinary people who decided that right was more important than might. And in the ship's security office, CEO Rodriguez began drafting a company-wide memo about a new policy, one that would bear Sarah Williams' name. The ship's security office had never held such an unusual gathering. Former Captain Richard Blake sat in a chair in the corner, his once proud uniform now rumpled and stained. His hands were secured with plastic ties as two security officers stood guard. CEO Rodriguez sat across from him, reviewing the evidence files on a tablet. Ryan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his steady gaze never leaving the disgraced captain. Sarah had been asked to stay as a witness, sitting quietly next to Valerie. 23,000 passenger profiles compromised, Rodriguez said, looking up from the tablet. Over $3 million skimmed from the company. False identity documents. Corporate espionage. She set down the tablet. You'll face at least 15 years in federal prison. Blake stared at the floor, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. What I don't understand, Rodriguez continued, is why. Your performance reviews before the complaint started were excellent. Passengers liked you. You were on track for a corporate position. You wouldn't understand, Blake muttered. Try me, Rodriguez challenged. When Blake remained silent, Ryan spoke up. My team found something interesting in your background. Before you became Richard Blake, you were Richard Prentice, son of a cruise ship janitor. The former captain's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. Your father worked for this very cruise line, Ryan continued, for 30 years, until he was fired after being blamed for a passenger's missing jewelry that was later found in the passenger's own luggage. How did you? Your father died 3 months later, Ryan said quietly. Heart attack, alone in a small apartment. You were 17. Sarah watched as the captain's face transformed, the mask of arrogance cracking to reveal raw pain underneath. They threw him away, Blake whispered, his voice suddenly different, younger, vulnerable. 30 years of cleaning their toilets, scrubbing their floors, one accusation from a rich passenger, and they threw him away like garbage. So this was revenge, Rodriguez asked. Blake laughed bitterly. Justice. I called it justice. Taking back what should have been my father's retirement, his dignity, by becoming the very thing that destroyed him, Sarah asked gently. Someone who abuses power over others? The room fell silent. Blake looked at her, really looked, perhaps for the first time. I never saw it that way, he said slowly. Rodriguez glanced at Ryan, then at the security officers. Give us the room, please, just for a few minutes. Ryan hesitated. Ma'am, I don't think... It's all right, Commander, Rodriguez said firmly. Ms. Williams and I will be fine. Once they were alone with Blake, Rodriguez moved her chair closer to him. Tell me about your father, she said. Blake seemed surprised by the question. Why would you care? Because I need to understand how one of our best captains became our worst. He was quiet for a moment. Then the story spilled out. Dad worked night shifts so he could see me off to school each morning. His hands were always raw from cleaning chemicals, but he never complained. Blake's voice softened with the memory. He loved these ships, would point them out in magazines, tell me how he helped make them shine. And then the accusation came, Rodriguez prompted. Blake nodded. A diamond bracelet. Passenger said she left it in her bathroom. Security searched our apartment, treated him like a criminal. His voice hardened. When they found it in her luggage a week later, nobody even apologized. Sarah felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at what this man had done, yet sympathy for the boy he had once been. After he died, Blake continued, I promised myself I'd never be powerless like him. I changed my name, created a new past, worked my way up from the bottom. When I finally became captain, he smiled sadly. I thought I'd won. But it wasn't enough, Rodriguez observed. It was never enough, he admitted. I kept seeing them, the wealthy passengers throwing away money, complaining about trivial things, just like the woman who accused my father. Sarah leaned forward. Is that how you saw me? Just another demanding passenger? Blake couldn't meet her eyes. You reminded me of my third-grade teacher. She tried to help when Dad lost his job. Gave me lunch money, clothes. I hated taking her charity. It wasn't charity, Sarah said gently. It was kindness. Same thing when you're poor, Blake replied. Rodriguez studied him carefully. The claustrophobia in your file, it's not from a childhood accident, is it? Blake looked surprised. How did you know? Your reaction to small spaces is too severe for an adult onset condition. Something happened when you were young. The former captain was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. After Dad died, I stayed with a foster family. The father, he would lock me in a utility closet when I misbehaved. Sometimes for hours. He swallowed hard. That's why I always have the biggest quarters on the ship. I can't handle small spaces. Sarah felt a chill run through her. You knew exactly what I was feeling in that tiny cabin. Yes, Blake admitted, I knew. Then why? Sarah asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Blake struggled to answer. Because helping you meant admitting I was just like you. Weak, afraid. His voice broke slightly. I spent my whole life building walls so no one would ever see that scared kid in the closet again. The office fell silent as the weight of his confession settled around them. Outside, they could hear the normal sounds of the ship passengers laughing, crew members greeting each other, life continuing. Finally, Rodriguez spoke. What you did was wrong, criminal. You'll face consequences. Blake nodded, resignation in his eyes. But, she continued, your father was wrong too. And while it doesn't excuse your actions, I understand how pain can twist into something destructive. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ryan entered with First Officer Jacobson. Ma'am, we have a situation, Jacobson said urgently. A young passenger is having a severe anxiety attack in the main atrium. The ship's doctor requested Ms. Williams specifically. Apparently the child is one of her students. Sarah stood immediately. Tommy, he's here? Jacobson nodded. His family boarded at the last port while you were dealing with all this. He's asking for you. Sarah looked at Rodriguez, who nodded. Go, we've got things handled here. As Sarah hurried out with Jacobson, she glanced back once at the former captain. Their eyes met briefly. Two people who understood the prison of panic, the suffocation of small spaces. For just a moment, she saw not the man who had refused her upgrade, but the frightened boy locked in a closet. In the atrium, she found Tommy curled in a corner behind a large plant, his parents hovering nearby with worried expressions. The ship's doctor knelt beside him, but the boy was unreachable, lost in his fear. Tommy, Sarah said softly, kneeling down. It's Ms. Williams. The little boy looked up, his glasses fogged with tears. Ms. Williams? You're really here? I'm really here, she smiled. Remember our brave breathing? Tommy nodded shakily. Let's do it together, Sarah said, demonstrating the technique she'd taught him. In through your nose like you're smelling flowers. Out through your mouth like you're blowing out candles. Tommy finished, following her lead. Sarah continued guiding him, her voice gentle and steady. That's right. Now tell me 5 things you can see. The big chandelier, your blue dress, my dad's red shirt, the plant leaves, the shiny floor. As Tommy slowly calmed down, a crowd had gathered at a respectful distance, watching the kindergarten teacher work her magic. Among them were Martha and Harold, Miguel, Elena, and several officers. Tommy's mother wiped tears from her eyes. We thought this cruise would help him practice being brave in new places. But when we entered this huge room, he just froze. Big spaces can be just as scary as small ones, Sarah explained. But Tommy's doing wonderfully, aren't you, Tommy? The boy nodded, his breathing now normal. I did brave breathing, and I found you, just like you said. Sarah smiled, confused. Like I said? In your postcard. You said if I ever got scared on a big ship, I should find you because you'd be there. Sarah suddenly remembered the classroom postcard she'd sent before leaving a generic note telling her students she'd think of them during her vacation. Tommy had interpreted it literally, in the concrete way many children do. That's right, she agreed, not wanting to confuse him. And look, you did find me. As Tommy stood up, now calm and even smiling slightly, Sarah noticed Ryan watching from the edge of the crowd, a proud expression on his face. Beside him stood CEO Rodriguez and, surprisingly, the former captain in handcuffs, being led to the security office on a different deck. Blake paused, watching the scene with an unreadable expression. For a brief moment, his eyes met Sarah's again over the crowd. He gave an almost imperceptible nod acknowledgement, perhaps even respect, before being led away. Later, as the sun began to set over the ocean, Sarah and Ryan stood on her balcony, watching the colors paint the sky. Tommy's doing great now, Sarah said. His parents said he's excited to try the kids' pool tomorrow. Ryan smiled. You have a gift, sis. You see people's fear and help them face it instead of hiding from it. Unlike some ship captains we know, Sarah remarked. People become what they fear most sometimes, Ryan said thoughtfully. Blake was so afraid of being powerless that he became the kind of person who abused power. Sarah leaned against the railing. Do you think he can change? Ryan considered the question. I've seen hardened combat veterans transform their lives, but first he has to want to change. Below them on the main deck, they could see CEO Rodriguez addressing the gathered crew, her voice carrying on the evening breeze. A new beginning for the ship. Every passenger deserves respect, regardless of what they paid for their ticket. Every crew member deserves dignity. Sarah smiled. Sounds like things are already changing. As darkness settled over the ship, lights twinkled on across the decks. In the distance, a pod of dolphins leapt from the water, catching the last rays of sunlight. Look, Sarah pointed. I promised Tommy I'd show him dolphins. Now I'll have a photo for class. Ryan put his arm around his sister's shoulders. You know what? I think this cruise is finally becoming the vacation you deserved. In the security office, Richard Blake sat alone with his thoughts, a paper and pen before him. Slowly he began to write. To those I've wronged, the ship sailed on through the night, carrying its passengers and crew toward a new dawn one, where cabins were just places to sleep, and the real luxury was being seen, heard, and valued, no matter who you were. 3 days had passed since Richard Blake had been removed as captain. The Oceanic Star felt like a different ship entirely. Crew members smiled genuinely. Passengers traded stories of their experiences, and a sense of community had replaced the rigid hierarchy that once defined life on board. First Officer Jacobson, now acting captain, stood on the bridge with a calm confidence he'd never shown before. Course looking good, sir, the navigator reported. Weather forecast is clear for the next 2 days. Thank you, Jacobson nodded. And how are our passenger satisfaction scores today? Up another 12 points since yesterday, Valerie replied, now serving as the ship's chief of guest experience, a position CEO Rodriguez had created specifically for her. We've had 63 compliments and only 2 minor complaints, both already resolved. Jacobson smiled. Amazing what happens when people feel heard. Valerie checked her tablet. The Williams accommodation policy has been implemented on all 15 ships in the fleet as of this morning. Medical requests are now automatically approved with proper documentation. She named it after Sarah? Jacobson asked, surprised. Miss Rodriguez insisted. Said it would remind everyone that one person standing up for what's right can change an entire company. On the main deck, Sarah sat cross-legged in a circle with Tommy and 5 other children, leading them in a modified version of her classroom morning routine. And what's one brave thing you might try today? She asked the group. I'm going to try the water slide, Tommy announced proudly, even though it's high up. I'm going to order my own lunch, a shy little girl added. Wonderful choices, Sarah beamed. Remember, being brave doesn't mean not feeling scared. It means feeling scared and trying anyway. The impromptu children's group had started when Tommy's parents asked if Sarah might help other children who were struggling with anxiety on the ship. Word spread quickly, and now Sarah found herself running a daily Brave Adventurers Club that had become the highlight of her vacation. Martha and Harold approached as the children dispersed to their waiting parents. "You've created quite the following," Martha chuckled, settling into a nearby chair. "Those children adore you." Sarah smiled. "It helps them, and honestly, it helps me too. Makes me feel useful." "Speaking of useful," Harold said, holding up his tablet, "the petition has gone viral. Over 20,000 signatures now, and it's been picked up by 3 major news outlets." 20,000? Sarah gasped. "But there are only about 3,000 people on this ship." "The internet is a powerful thing," Harold winked, "especially when Camilla Worthington shares it with her 2 million social media followers." Across the deck, Ryan conferred with his team while watching Sarah with pride. "The security audit is complete," Lieutenant Jenkins reported. "We've recovered all compromised data and isolated the breach points." "And the yacht that was following us?" Ryan asked. "Coast Guard intercepted it yesterday. 3 former crew members in custody, all claiming Blake promised them a percentage of the profits." Ryan nodded. "Good work, team. CEO Rodriguez wants our final briefing at 1400 hours. As his team departed, Ryan spotted Miguel approaching with Elena. "Commander Williams," Miguel called out, "we wanted to thank you again. The crew quarters have already been renovated. We have proper beds and working air conditioning for the first time in years." "That wasn't me," Ryan smiled. "That was Rodriguez responding to your crew petition." "But you showed us we could stand up for ourselves," Elena insisted. "Before you came, everyone was too afraid to speak out." "You always had the power," Ryan corrected gently. "You just needed to use it together." Elena glanced toward the security deck. "Is it true they're letting the former captain help identify security weaknesses in the system?" Ryan nodded. "Part of his plea agreement, reduced charges in exchange for full cooperation." "Do you think he's really sorry?" Miguel asked skeptically. Ryan considered the question. "I think he's finally facing the demons he's been running from his whole life. That's a start." In a secure conference room, Richard Blake sat across from CEO Rodriguez, his handcuffs temporarily removed so he could diagram the ship's network vulnerabilities on a tablet. "The passenger data was collected here, in the check-in system," he explained, pointing to a flowchart. "I created a shadow server that made copies of all financial information during the initial credit card authorization." Rodriguez studied the diagram. "And no one in IT detected this?" "I fired anyone who got close," Blake admitted. "Replaced them with people who wouldn't question me." Rodriguez made a note. "We'll need to restructure the entire department." Blake hesitated, then continued. "There's something else. The safes in the luxury suites, they don't just record when they're opened. They take photos of the contents when guests leave them unattended." "Photos?" Rodriguez looked up sharply. "Of guests' valuables and personal items?" Blake nodded, shame evident in his expression. "It started as a security feature, but I repurposed it." As they continued working, a knock came at the door. Sarah entered with Tommy and his parents. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said. "Tommy has something he wanted to say before we reach port tomorrow." Rodriguez smiled warmly. "Of course, please come in." Tommy stepped forward, clutching a folded paper in his hands. He looked at Blake with curiosity rather than fear. "My mom says you used to be the captain, but you did some bad things," he said with the direct honesty only children possess. Blake swallowed hard. "That's right. Miss Williams says sometimes people do bad things when they're scared inside," Tommy continued. "Like when I broke my mom's favorite picture frame because I was mad about being scared of the dark." "Tommy," his mother said gently, but Rodriguez gestured for her to let him continue. "I made this for you," Tommy said, handing Blake the folded paper. "It's okay to be scared sometimes." Blake unfolded the page to find a child's drawing of a closet door, partially open, with light streaming in. Written in crayon at the bottom were the words, "You can come out now." The former captain stared at the drawing, his hands trembling slightly. "How did you—" "Ms. Williams told us about the closet when you were little," Tommy explained. "I get scared of small dark places too." Blake looked up at Sarah, who nodded slightly. "Thank you," Blake said quietly to Tommy. "This means a lot to me." After Tommy and his parents left, Blake carefully folded the drawing and placed it in his shirt pocket. "That child has no idea who I really am," he said softly. Perhaps he sees more clearly than most adults, Rodriguez replied, the frightened boy behind the angry man. Blake was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about what Miss Williams said, about becoming the very thing that destroyed my father. And she was right. Blake looked out the window at the vast ocean. I became worse than the people who fired my father. At least they thought he was guilty. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway. Rodriguez studied him thoughtfully. What would you do differently if you could go back? Blake considered the question. I'd use my position to protect people like my father, create fair policies, listen to crew concerns. He gave a bitter laugh. Everything I should have done as captain. It's never too late to become the person you should have been, Rodriguez said. Isn't it? Blake asked. I'm facing federal charges. My career is over. My freedom will be gone for years. True, Rodriguez acknowledged, but life continues beyond consequences. The question is, who will you be when you've paid your debt? That evening, CEO Rodriguez hosted a special dinner for the passengers and crew who had been part of exposing the truth. Sarah sat between Ryan and Martha, with Harold, Miguel, Elena, Dr. Peters, Valerie, and acting Captain Jacobson completing their table. To new beginning, Rodriguez toasted, raising her glass, and to the courage to stand up for what's right. As dinner progressed, Rodriguez addressed the group. I wanted to thank you all personally for what you've done, not just for the passengers on this ship, but for our entire company. She turned to Sarah. Ms. Williams, your simple request for a room with a window has transformed our entire approach to passenger accommodations. The Williams policy will ensure no one with a legitimate need is ever turned away again. Sarah blushed. I never expected any of this to happen. The best changes often come from unexpected places, Rodriguez smiled. Which brings me to an announcement. Acting Captain Jacobson has accepted the permanent position as captain of the Oceanic Star. The table erupted in applause as Jacobson nodded humbly. And, Rodriguez continued, we're implementing a new company-wide program called Open Horizons to provide free cruises for children with anxiety disorders and their families. Sarah gasped, That's incredible. We'd like you to be our consultant for the program, Rodriguez added. Your experience with both claustrophobia and teaching anxious children makes you uniquely qualified. I would be honored, Sarah replied, tears welling in her eyes. As dessert was served, conversations flowed freely around the table. Martha and Harold discussed their upcoming 50th anniversary cruise, which Rodriguez insisted would be complimentary. Miguel and Elena shared their dreams of advancing in the company, while Valerie outlined her plans for improving guest experiences. Ryan watched his sister chatting animatedly with Dr. Peters about techniques for helping children with anxiety. She was transformed from the nervous woman who had boarded this ship more confident, more assertive, her natural compassion now backed by newfound strength. Later that night, Sarah and Ryan stood on her balcony, watching the moon create a silver path across the water. I can't believe we dock tomorrow, Sarah sighed. Part of me doesn't want this to end. Even with everything that happened, Ryan asked. Especially because of everything that happened, she replied. I came looking for a vacation and found, I don't know, something more important. Ryan smiled. Like a consulting position with a major cruise line? Like the knowledge that I can make a difference, Sarah corrected. That standing up for myself can help others too. They fell silent, enjoying the peaceful night. Finally, Ryan spoke again. CEO Rodriguez asked me an interesting question today, he said. She wondered if I might consider a position as security consultant for the cruise line, implementing new protocols, training staff. Are you considering it? Sarah asked, surprised. I might be, Ryan admitted. After 15 years in the SEALs, I've been thinking about what's next. This experience showed me there are different ways to use my skills. I think you'd be amazing at it, Sarah said sincerely. And selfishly, it would mean you'd be stateside more often. I miss my big brother. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. Well, nothing's decided yet, but it's good to have options. Below them on the deck, Tommy and his parents walked along the railing, the boy pointing excitedly at something in the water. Look at him, Sarah smiled. Yesterday he couldn't even step outside his cabin without panicking. Like someone else I know, Ryan teased gently. We've all changed on this voyage, Sarah reflected. Even former Captain Blake. You think so? Ryan asked. Sarah nodded. I saw it in his eyes when Tommy gave him that drawing. Something broke open. Something that needed breaking. As the ship sailed through the night, lights twinkled from distant shores, signs of the world they would soon rejoin. But something had shifted during these days at sea, something that would remain with them long after they returned to land. In the security office, Richard Blake sat alone in his temporary cell, Tommy's drawing propped against the wall. He stared at it for a long time before picking up the journal Rodriguez had given him. On a fresh page, he began to write, "The man I want to become." Sarah Williams stood at the railing of the Oceanic Star, watching as 20 excited children from her class lined up with their parents for the welcome photo. Each child wore a bright blue Brave Adventurers t-shirt, with Tommy proudly leading the group. "Miss Williams, look how big the ship is," Tommy called out, his voice strong and confident, so different from the frightened boy of 6 months ago. "It sure is," Sarah smiled. "Are you excited for our adventure?" "Yes," the children chorused, jumping with enthusiasm. This wasn't just any cruise. It was the inaugural voyage of the Open Horizons program, bringing children with anxiety disorders on a specially designed cruise experience. What had started with Sarah's simple request for a room upgrade had blossomed into something extraordinary. Captain Jacobson, now comfortable in his role as the ship's permanent captain, approached with a warm smile. "Welcome back, Miss Williams. Your special guests are all checked in and ready for their adventure." "Thank you, Captain," Sarah replied. "The children have been counting down the days." "They're not the only ones excited about this voyage," he said, gesturing toward the upper deck. Sarah looked up to see her brother Ryan standing at the railing in a crisp business suit instead of his military uniform. He waved and started making his way down to meet them. "The ship's new security director looks pretty sharp," Captain Jacobson commented. Ryan had accepted CEO Rodriguez's offer, retiring from active duty to become the cruise line's Director of Security and Passenger Safety, a position created specifically for him. Under his leadership, the entire fleet had been transformed with new safety protocols and a renewed focus on passenger welfare. "Sister," Ryan greeted, hugging Sarah, "your students look ready for adventure." "More than ready," Sarah laughed. "They've been practicing their brave breathing for weeks." As Ryan helped organize the children's welcome packages, a familiar voice called from across the deck. "Ms. Williams, they're here!" Valerie hurried toward them, tablet in hand as always, but now with the confidence of someone who knew her worth. Her promotion to Chief of Guest Experience had been just the beginning. She now oversaw passenger relations for the entire fleet. "Everything's ready in the Children's Center," Valerie reported, "and our special consultant is waiting to meet the group." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "He's really here?" "Yes," Valerie nodded. "Arrived yesterday to help set up the program." Sarah turned to her teaching assistant. "Michelle, could you take the children to get settled in their cabins? I need to check on something." As the children followed Michelle toward their family-sized suites, all with large windows and balconies, Sarah made her way to the ship's newly renovated Children's Center. The space had been completely transformed from the standard playroom it once was. Now it featured comfort corners with weighted blankets, quiet reading nooks, sensory play areas, and large windows showing the ocean view. The walls displayed colorful images of sea creatures alongside breathing exercise charts and encouraging messages. And in the center of it all stood Richard Blake, the former captain, arranging fidget toys on a low table. He looked different, thinner, his once perfect hair now slightly longer and touched with more gray. But the rigid military posture was gone, replaced by a more relaxed bearing. When he spotted Sarah, uncertainty flashed across his face. "Miss Williams," he greeted cautiously, "I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me." Sarah approached him with a measured smile. "I'm glad you're here, Mr. Blake. Thanks to his full cooperation and Rodriguez's testimony about his troubled background, Blake had received a reduced sentence, 3 years of supervised release and community service instead of prison time. Part of that service included helping design programs for children with anxiety, using his own experiences to create safe spaces. "How does it look?" he asked, gesturing to the room. "I remembered everything you said about Tommy and your other students." Sarah looked around, genuinely impressed. "It's perfect. The open design, the ocean views, the comfort spaces. You've thought of everything." "I had a good teacher," Blake replied quietly. An awkward silence fell between them. The history too complex to ignore. The redemption still a work in progress. "I read about the Williams policy in the news," Blake finally said. "You've changed how every cruise line handles medical accommodations." Sarah shook her head modestly. "That was CEO Rodriguez." "No," Blake insisted. "It was you. Standing up to me that day changed everything." He hesitated. "I want to apologize again, properly. Not just for denying your upgrade, but for who I was then." "Apology accepted," Sarah said simply. Then changing the subject, "I hear you've been working with children already." Blake's expression softened. "At a community center in my hometown. Kids with anxiety disorders. Turns out I understand them better than I thought." "Tommy will be excited to see you," Sarah commented. "He still has that drawing of yours on his wall." "The closet door opening," Blake nodded. "I have his on my refrigerator." The door opened as Miguel entered, now wearing the uniform of a junior officer, his promotion another result of the changes aboard the Oceanic Star. "Ms. Williams, the welcome ceremony is about to begin," he announced. Then with a respectful nod, "Mr. Blake?" "Thank you, Miguel," Blake replied. "How's your grandmother doing?" "Much better. She loved the flowers you sent after her surgery." Sarah watched this exchange with surprise. Clearly, Blake had been working to make amends with more people than just her. The main deck was transformed for the welcome ceremony. CEO Rodriguez stood at a podium before the gathered passengers, crew, and Sarah's special group of students. "Welcome to the first voyage of our Open Horizons program," Rodriguez announced proudly. 6 months ago on this very ship, we learned an important lesson about listening to our passengers and responding to their needs with compassion. She gestured toward Sarah and the children. "Today we take that lesson further by creating a special experience for these brave young adventurers, helping them face their fears in a supportive environment." The crowd applauded as Tommy and another student stepped forward to cut the ceremonial ribbon. Martha and Harold stood nearby, honored guests as the originators of the petition that had sparked so much change. "Ms. Williams will be our program director," Rodriguez continued, "working alongside our team of specialists, including Mr. Richard Blake, who brings his unique perspective to creating safe spaces for children with anxiety." Blake, standing quietly at the edge of the gathering, looked stunned at being publicly acknowledged. A few curious glances were cast his way, but there was no hostility, just acceptance of redemption and progress. After the ceremony, Ryan joined Sarah as they watched the children exploring the ship, already more confident than they had been on shore. "Look at Tommy," Sarah pointed proudly. "He's leading the others to the upper deck. 6 months ago, he couldn't even look at the ocean without panicking." Ryan nodded. "Amazing what the right support can do." Sarah turned to her brother. "Speaking of support, how's your mentorship program coming along?" 20 former military members starting next month," Ryan replied proudly. "They'll work with the crew on everything from security to leadership skills. Many of them have PTSD, so they understand anxiety firsthand." "The healing teaching, the healing," Sarah observed. "Exactly." Ryan checked his watch. "Almost time for the surprise." "What surprise?" Ryan just smiled mysteriously. "You'll see." As sunset approached, Miguel and Elena gathered Sarah's students at the forward deck. Captain Jacobson appeared on the bridge above, his voice coming over the loudspeaker. "Attention, brave adventurers. Look to the starboard side, that's the right side of the ship, for a special welcome." The children rushed to the railing as a pod of dolphins suddenly appeared, leaping alongside the ship as if specially ordered for the occasion. Their sleek bodies arched through the golden sunset light, creating a moment of pure magic. Dolphins, Tommy shouted, jumping with excitement. Ms. Williams, you promised we'd see dolphins. Sarah hadn't planned this. She looked questioningly at Ryan, who pointed toward the bridge. There stood Blake beside Captain Jacobson, coordinating with the helmsman to follow the dolphin pod. Later, as the children excitedly drew pictures of dolphins in the Children's Center, Blake approached Sarah. We tracked their migration patterns, he explained, adjusted our course slightly to make sure we'd encounter them at sunset. That was incredibly thoughtful, Sarah said, genuinely moved. It's the least I could do, Blake replied. I've been thinking a lot about what you said 6 months ago, about being the very thing that destroyed my father. And you were right, he admitted. I'd become so focused on revenge that I lost sight of who I wanted to be, who my father would have wanted me to be. Sarah watched as he knelt down to help a little girl with her drawing, showing patience and gentleness she would never have associated with the rigid captain she'd first met. You know, she said when he rejoined her, the funny thing about claustrophobia isn't just the fear of small spaces. It's the fear of being trapped, of having no way out. Blake nodded. I know that feeling well. But there's always a way out, Sarah continued. It might not be the door you came in through. Sometimes it's a door you have to build yourself. Like this program? Blake gestured around them. Like this program, she agreed. Like your work at the community center. Like everything that's happened since that day you refused my upgrade. That night, long after the children were asleep in their spacious cabins with nightlights glowing, the adults gathered in the observation lounge. Captain Jacobson, Ryan, Sarah, Blake, Valerie, Miguel, Elena, Martha, Harold, and CEO Rodriguez shared drinks and conversation as the ship sailed under a canopy of stars. A toast, Rodriguez proposed, raising her glass. To the most expensive room upgrade in cruise line history. Everyone laughed as they clinked glasses. How so? Sarah asked. Well, Rodriguez smiled. Your original request would have cost the company about $200 a night. Instead, it cost us a complete corporate restructuring, a new fleet-wide accommodation policy, 2 new children's programs, and a former captain. Don't forget my salary, Ryan added with a grin. Security directors don't come cheap. Worth every penny, Rodriguez assured him. As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself standing at the window beside Blake, both looking out at the moonlit ocean. Do you regret it? She asked suddenly. That day when you said no to my upgrade request? Blake considered the question carefully. I regret my reasons for refusing. I regret the person I was. He turned to face her. But if I had said yes, none of this would have happened. Your brother wouldn't have landed on the ship. The crew wouldn't have found their voice. I would still be trapped in my own prison of anger. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes, Sarah reflected. Indeed, Blake agreed. Though I wouldn't recommend my particular path of transformation to others. Sarah laughed softly. No, there are easier ways to learn compassion than federal charges. From across the room, Ryan watched his sister chatting with the man who had once been their adversary. The transformation in both of them was remarkable. Sarah now confident and assertive. Blake humbled and genuine. Martha joined Ryan by the bar. Quite a journey, hasn't it been? And to think it all started with a simple room request. Nothing is ever really simple, Ryan replied. Not rooms, not people. Your sister is special, Martha observed. She sees the person behind the problem. Always has, Ryan nodded. Even when we were kids. I was the one who wanted to fight the bullies. She was the one who noticed they were usually hurting themselves. Outside, the ship cut smoothly through calm waters, its course steady and true under Captain Jacobson's command. Passengers slept peacefully in rooms assigned with care and consideration. Crew members worked their shifts with newfound pride in their ship. And far below in the children's cabins, 20 young adventurers dreamed of dolphins and open horizons, their fears temporarily forgotten as the gentle rocking of the ship reminded them that sometimes the journey itself is the healing. Sarah Williams had boarded this ship 6 months ago, seeking escape from her tiny classroom and overwhelming responsibilities. she had found something far more valuable. The knowledge that one person's courage could ripple outward, transforming not just a vacation, but an entire community. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears to face, but tonight, under the vast ocean sky, everything seemed possible, even the healing of old wounds and the building of new beginnings. After all, as Sarah often told her students, bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about feeling afraid and moving forward anyway, one small step, one deep breath at a time.